who took time out of their day and their evening, especially on a day like today, to come and join us in the agenda for this evening. It is February 23rd. It is 7 p.m. And we are going to precede our normal monthly Planning Commission meeting by holding two required public hearings. The first public hearing is focused on gaining public comments on the draft Carroll County Water Resource Element, or known as the WRE. The draft is dated 17 September 2025, and the county aims to include this draft WRE within their next master plan. The draft was first briefed to this commission on September 29th of last year, where the planning commissioners reviewed the draft, queried the town engineer on particulars within the draft, and also ensured that we had the town's Water and Sewer Commission agreement as to the content within that WRE. And it's important to have that cross-commission coordination because of the municipalities within the county. We are one of the 8 which manages its own water system. So obviously the water resource element is very focused on the section addressing Mount Airy's future water and future sewer capacities. The draft was agreed to at that time, and so now we're within the 60-day review period, which is required by the state for such documents. And so in conjunction with the review at the municipal and the state level, we're required to hold a public hearing to allow the public one last opinion, one last opportunity to weigh in on the WRE. The WRE has been posted on the town's website for the public's education and knowledge of what has been drafted pertaining the water system and sewer system of Mount Airy. So I will ask that those who choose to speak to kindly limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we'll run a timer up here to help guide you in your comments. If you don't wish to speak, then you may also provide written input to the town staff. Our aim today is to collect all of the comments and anything in writing and forward that to the County Planning Commission so that they can examine it in any possible edits or amendments to that draft WRE. So that's our goal tonight, is to get your input on what the county believes is the future of both our water and wastewater capacities. Lastly, just a kind reminder, public hearings such as this are not interactive in the sense that I would not invite you to ask questions of the dais up here or the town engineer or the town staff. Our role at this public hearing is to listen to you. If you do, however, have questions on the draft WRE, then again, I would ask that you submit those in writing to the town staff. And if the town staff or town engineer can't address them readily, then they will also pulse the county drafter to get a good answer back to you. So I hope that's fair to everybody here. So at that point, then, may I see, by raising your hand, those interested in making a public comment on the WRE? Going once again, anyone here tonight who wishes to make a comment on the WRE? Seeing none, then I will move to the second public hearing. The next public hearing pertains to this commission's requirement by town code to biannually designate what is known as priority areas within the town limits. And priority areas are simply understood as where the planning commissions believe future development should be directed by the town leaders, the elected council, the mayor, and of course advised by the town staff. This requirement levied upon the Planning Commission is found in the code book at 109-19, paragraph 4.b. In coordination with the town staff and upon review of the most recent priority area map, we, the commission, have a draft map that's available for your public comment. And again, I reiterate, priority areas are simply understood and defined within our town code as those areas where we believe the leadership should direct future development. So just as I did a moment ago, I asked those who wish to speak regarding the draft priority area map to limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. And may I see a show of hands of those who are interested in making a comment regarding the priority area map? While some of you may be mulling over that, I'll just reiterate the map basically defines what we know amongst the commission as the downtown zone with a little bit extra added, which is the Center Street extension, kind of capturing that, that development that goes to the east. There you go. Thanks, John. That goes to the east over to Maryland Route 27, Ridge Road. And so I won't elaborate as to why we believe the continuation of this is also mirroring what was here before 2 years ago. But that's kind of what we believe should be the future development. Of course, it's focused on downtown development, growing the downtown economic base, business, commercial enterprises. Put succinctly, that's kind of the focus on what we believe to be the priority areas. So once again, any and all public comment on that map? Seeing none, and with the town administrator's agreement, I'll close the public hearings. The public hearings on those two matters, the WRE and the priority map designation by the Planning Commission, are closed. And I will move directly into starting the Planning Commission. So if I may ask, in calling to order of the Planning Commission on February 23rd at 7:06 p.m. in the town of Mount Airy, calling this meeting to open, I ask that you stand and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our next order of business is the approval of minutes from our last meeting. And for those who aren't familiar with the Planning Commission, the phrase, "I'm so happy to see the band get back together again," it's appropriate because our last meeting was at the end of November, November 24th. We always take a hiatus in December. One of the commissions that does not hold a meeting at the last Monday in December. January, unfortunately, was affected by weather. As you all know, Town Hall was closed, and so we had to cancel our January meeting. So here we are in February. We almost had another weather-related event. I got a call from the National Weather Service saying they're just going to look at our schedule to call the weather, and it's seeming that way. But no, in all seriousness, I'm happy to see the day is filled with the commissioners. I will mention that unfortunately we do have one of the commissioners out due to work-related demands, Commissioner Kim Bynack. Hopefully she's watching us via the Facebook feed and she can follow along. And also our town attorney, I'll make mention that our excellent town attorney, Mr. Tom McCarron, normally sitting to your left, he is in attendance here, but via a phone hooked up that the town staff has established. So we will have the counsel of the town attorney as needed as we proceed through tonight's agenda. And one more time, a sound check from Tom.
I can hear you guys.
Okay, great. All right, he is there. Okay. So again, going back to the first order of business, do I hear a motion to approve or disapprove the minutes dated November 24th, 2025?
I'll motion to approve the minutes with a quick question.
In discussion.
In discussion,
Yeah.
okay.
So a motion's been made to approve. Do I have a second? Commissioner Butts seconds. I now open the minutes to discussion, edits, or changes. Commissioner?
But it's just maybe I'm just being fussy, but it says the next meeting will be held on Monday, January 26th. Do we have to edit that to say February?
I think if, and I'll defer to John, but I believe Ms. Clinton, who is always the sage on such comments, I think she says it has to reflect what we believed at the time. And we believed at the time that we were going to have a meeting in January.
That's correct.
Is that accurate?
I do want to say that I just got a text message from CMC. For whatever reason, our Facebook feed will not be going out until 7:30.
Okay.
So I don't know
Okay.
what we can do. So,
We're going to have to wait for all the excitement to happen at 7:30 then.
well, I guess so. So he's responding again real quick. YouTube is live. So
YouTube is live?
it's being recorded, but our Facebook feed won't start until 7:30.
Okay, let me look at the agenda and,
So the meeting is being recorded and will be available
later.
later and also right now currently on YouTube.
Okay, let's move forward.
Okay,
Yeah,
I just want to let everybody know.
no, that's kind of, yeah. So let's, Commissioner, object to that? Move forward? Gotcha, okay, yep, all right. So back to the question raised, I believe staff agrees that we can leave it as is because that was what was recorded at the time, and this reflects the events of November 24th.
That's correct.
Okay, is that?
Yep.
Okay. We're still in discussion. We have a motion and a second, still in discussion. Any other questions? No further questions. I have none. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? The minutes are approved.
So who motioned that and who seconded, out of curiosity?
Commissioner Hatley motioned. Second was Commissioner
Okay,
Butts.
thank you.
Double duty tonight, aren't you?
That is correct.
So, fantastic. And I will sign those and provide them at the end of the meeting tonight. The next agenda item, as we often do, is open a period of time for citizen comments. And as I've done before, I'm going to adjust the guidance on the agenda such that it's not for items not on the agenda. So let me say that differently. I am going to open public comments for anything on any topic which that speaker wishes to address, to include items that are on the agenda. And we have a very rich agenda tonight. We have several items. And with apologies at the early state here, I'm going to be pushing hard, but pushing thoroughly through each agenda item. And so that's why I'm asking that we not do any public comments per agenda, as I often open at the end of our discussions. I would ask that you give us your public comments on anything on the agenda and beyond. And so with that, could I see a show of hands of those interested in making a public comment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fantastic. So as I did before with the public hearing, I ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes, and I'll have a timer up here to your immediate right. I do ask that as you get to the mic, all I need to hear, all the commissioners need to hear is your name and whether you are or are not a resident within the town limits. You don't need to give us your address, okay? You don't need to give us that personal information. So your name, please, and if you are or are not. I saw a motion over here, Commissioner Walls.
Will there be any option for additional comment before the topics, or is it only going to be?
Only now.
Okay.
Only now. Yeah. So with that invitation, with a wide open, no holds barred kind of guidance on anything on the agenda or beyond, I just kindly ask who would be first to be the vanguard of the speakers and hit the mic. I believe it's turned on. I invite anyone to be first. Come on up.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. My name,
Thank you, Councilmember Kelly.
thank you very much. My name is Michael Rash. I am a town resident, and I just wanted to comment on the proposed Warfield annexation for the sports complex next to the Nottingham neighborhood. I've given a couple of these comments in previous meetings. I wanted to provide a little bit of a different perspective this time. To the point, first, Nottingham, one of the biggest neighborhoods in the entire town, 420 homes. This proposed sports complex will impact us from the perspectives of our roads, our water costs, the noise levels in and around our community, and it will reduce our home values. That will result in a lot of unhappy residents of the town. Secondly, Nottingham residents have spoken in terms of a survey that was sent by the HOA, and 95%, over 95% of Nottingham residents who responded are opposed to the sports complex annexation. Third, to the council, a vote for the annexation will affect the lives of conservatively over 1,000 town residents in Nottingham. The location of the sports complex is simply not in balance with the town. If this were a residential development, sure, no problem. But a sports complex will affect the lives of everyone in one of the biggest neighborhoods of Mount Airy. The choice before the council seems clear. And fourth, if the owners of the sports complex intend to go the county route, even if this council votes down the annexation into the town, that is not a done deal either. They have the current property is zoned residential according to zoning map 75 in the Carroll County zoning plan. That means that they would have to have that property rezoned as commercial, which also has the potential for public comment. Hence, the only done deal is if the council here votes to approve it. I would suggest please don't approve it and let them go through the county process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
Can you hear me? All right, my name is Evan Pupilis. I am a town resident. Kind of echoing a lot of what Michael said. I'm in opposition of the annexation of the Warfield property for the sports complex. I mean, it's been said in a few different meetings. It's a lot of negatives, and I don't see a lot of positives at all that go along with the annexation. The traffic is the one thing that jumps out to me the most. Watersville Road cannot handle that level of increased volume. You know, I know they proposed a couple hundred cars at its peak time. I think 170 was the number they came up with. Even if it's anywhere close to that number, it's not going to be feasible for the Watersville and 27 intersection. It's going to back up onto Watersville Road. 27 alone is going to get messed up. So I just don't think it's feasible whatsoever. And beyond a lot of like the quality of life stuff with the noise and the light, I don't see a ton of positives from this sports complex. They talked about potential improvement for, you know, restaurants and businesses in the area. These are for-profit tournament level games. A lot of these guys and teams are either going to bring food or they're just going to go back to hotels, reset, and then maybe go out to eat after that. So the hotels in Mount Airy, right? So they're going to go back to Frederick or Westminster, or maybe somewhere closer to like Columbia, and regroup there, right? So there's not going to be a ton of economic improvement. Talked about field use. I agree there should be more field access for our kids for sure. But again, it's a for-profit complex. Even if they give us like somewhat preferential treatment on a couple of fields, what does that really do, right? It's not giving us multiple fields. It's like, all right, you might be able to use these more often than not. It's not going to make a dent into it. And for those reasons, the negatives severely outweigh the positives. So I encourage you to, like Michael said, let the county take kind of control with it. Do not go forward with annexation. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. And I will do better with the remote here on time management. Next speaker, please, inviting you to the mic.
Good evening. My name is Dwayne Cordray. I'm a resident of the town of Mount Airy. I've been in front of this committee several times over the past several months to voice my opposition to the annexation of the Warfield property for the sports complex. I've given several examples of other sports complexes in the Mid-Atlantic region that would show better logistics and better amenities for families who would come to attend tournament games at this complex. This road has been mentioned over and over again. Again, the focus has been on 27 in Watersville. The gentleman before me just mentioned it's going to back up on Watersville Road. And then Waze and other navigational instruments will probably direct folks to back roads once the algorithms figure out that there's a traffic jam at the intersection. So I think Butler Road and Watersville Road is going to be backing up further, which is going to cause issues for folks leaving the Nottingham community to get out in town. There was a traffic study done. I think it was inadequate. They didn't take into account that Nottingham community hosts several swim meets on Saturdays, which is a prime time for games that would take place at the sports complex. So I'd like to see a little more investigation into how that will impact us, especially as other swim communities or swim team communities from other locations come to Nottingham for their swim meets. And it was said by the petitioner a couple of meetings ago that they were going to they want to put a indoor facility on top of this property in addition to the fields. So how many times are we going to go through progressive disclosures of what their intent is for this property? What's it going to be once they get if the property should be annexed? What's the next step? We've heard a lot of plans about what they're going to do. What I haven't heard is what's the exit strategy? What if this fails? What if they want to retire? What if they can't sell the property? They're just going to let it go to waste. And if you look at the Virginia Sports Complex, that place has changed hands several times, and it's really turned into an eyesore for the folks at that facility. And one last thing, hospitality. There's no hotels here. People are going to go up to Frederick to spend their dollars for meals, probably go to a Keys game or something of that effect. The town here isn't going to see that. The petitioner said the restaurants will benefit. I disagreed, but then he said, we'll alleviate the traffic, we'll bring in food trucks. Well, there's only one food truck restaurant here in Mount Airy, Crying Johnny's. So everybody else that they bring in is from out of town. So I don't see that as an economic boom to any of the restaurants here in town. So I have 10 seconds left, so I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you for your time. Again, I hope this committee opposes the annexation of the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Do we have another speaker? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Pat Coleman. I'm a town resident. I live in Nottingham, by the way. I'm just here to express my opposition to this whole sports complex. And I'm not coming from a anti-sports, anti-kids, point of view. I've got over 20 years experience in youth sports, in coaching, umpiring, you name it. My kids, my grandkids are all involved, still are today. I've had occasion to go to a lot of complexes around the East Coast of the U.S. and attend baseball tournaments, participate, that sort of thing. This is not the location. These kind of complexes are a wonderful idea, but we don't have the infrastructure here. We need to have hotels. We need to have more dining. We need to have ingress and egress for the traffic. I mean, they're talking about I think their traffic survey mentioned something about needing 7 more seconds of green light time at the intersection down here at Watersville and Ridge to handle the traffic. Well, they're asking for 1,000 parking places. That 7 seconds isn't going to get that done. Okay, I've been to these complexes. I know how people come and go. I know the traffic. I know the demands on space. There are so many ambiguities about this that have not been addressed, in my opinion, that have to do with security, lighting, how much usage of the property and the facilities the town gets back. It just goes on and on and on. And I would urge that before anything gets thought about in terms of approval, that you consider all of these things and get some sort of commitment in writing from these petitioners. Because there's just a lot of unanswered questions right now. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Another speaker?
I am Sherry Cates. I am not a town resident. I am.
Sherry, can you just tilt that microphone down towards you a
Oh,
little
of
bit?
course, I'm sorry.
There you go, that's perfect.
Better?
Should be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
I am the provider of food truck night, so that's my topic this evening. In regard to the new ordinance, with the 11-page ordinance, there's a lot of clarification I need, but I can't do it in 3 minutes. So how would you like me to proceed with that? I have several points to go over, but I don't want to take up more than my 3 minutes.
You're certainly invited to do as much as you can in the 3 minutes, but then if there's beyond that in your estimation, then I would suggest putting them in writing and sending them to the town staff.
Okay.
Either Jared or John would welcome
Okay.
those points.
When do you attempt to finalize the new ordinance?
We'll begin the journey tonight in the Planning Commission's task with regard to evaluating the proposed ordinance. And we'll be speaking tonight to the sponsor of that ordinance. And so I can't give you an idea. Let me give you this answer. We have 90 days, the commission
Okay.
does,
Fair
in order
enough.
to reach a recommendation regarding any new ordinance amendment.
Okay.
So I believe this dais will be able to meet that limit.
Or not, about 90 days?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Or-
That's
Or less.
that's
but,
great.
Now, I've taken a little bit of your time in answering.
Well, I'll start then.
Okay, let's reset
Okay.
if that's fair to the commissioners and let her begin again.
Thank you, I appreciate
Okay.
that. Let me just be clear, I am for an ordinance. I think this is my 5th year, and I think it's time that we put something in writing to protect everybody involved. However, there are several things in this ordinance that, frankly, one of them is completely unconstitutional. And I'm concerned about that we get it right moving forward. Specifically, the 500 feet limit, which is on page 6. I've numbered it. So in section C, number 1, wherever located mobile food units must be at least 500 feet from the customer entrance of any brick and mortar restaurant unless written consent is provided. So let me bring it to your attention that my husband and I are members of the Institute for Justice out of Virginia. And their recent case, they fight for civil liberties and economic liberties, and this is an economic liberty. So I'll read you the first paragraph. Fort Pierce's business owners kept inviting food truck owners Benny Diaz and Brian Pfeffer to set up on their properties, but Benny and Brian couldn't accept the invitation because Fort Pierce's city commission made operating a food truck within 500 feet of any restaurant or any business that sells food a crime. To hasten that whole article, which I'm happy to send to you if you need me to do that, it was struck down by the state of Florida. So it has been deemed unconstitutional. So when we rework this, we need to be sure that that is amended. Okay, so on page 6, do you have a copy of it handy?
We do.
For me to, okay. The permit, this particular event runs 6 months. It's every Monday for 6 months, from April 6th through September 28th. And now the trucks need a permit. So is it a one-time permit for, like, once for the whole 6 months? Do we know that?
So again, let's put that question into something we can send on to the staff.
Okay,
And to be fair to you, you may hear some of these answers as we get through tonight's agenda.
okay, perfect. Okay, on page 8, section F, temporary mobile food units shall be limited to signage attached or otherwise displayed on the food unit. So does that mean that they could fly a flag, for instance, while they're parked?
So again, questions such as this would be best addressed by the staff in response to you.
Okay. As leader, I have been tasked in this ordinance with actually putting together a site plan, pedestrian information, and roads, and I don't know why that is my responsibility.
And I'm not aware of that, Sherry, but again, whoever levied that role onto you, my advice would be to ensure that you illuminate that question in your written submission to the staff.
Okay,
And I'm confident the staff is keen on all input regarding this new ordinance.
okay,
And so I would just say, because we need to wrap up your time, to be fair to everyone
no
else.
problem.
But I acknowledge that you've raised some good questions. I don't want to vet your answers because I'm not the sponsor of the ordinance, but I know that your questions in writing to the staff will get to that sponsor.
Okay, who would I give those questions to when I put it together?
So if I may, Jared, I would say either the town administrator, Jared
Okay.
Schumacher here, or John Breeden.
Okay,
Either one.
perfect.
Would be very receptive to input from you on that.
Okay,
And to be fair to everybody here, any ordinance amendment to our code, any change to our code requires the council to establish a public hearing at that time regarding that specific amendment. So there will be another opportunity. We're in the recommending an analysis of it at the first level, and then our analysis will then take forward a recommendation for the council to consider or not. But they are ultimately, after a public hearing, the body that will decide whether to accept the ordinance or not.
understood.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. And although I said it wasn't interactive, I don't like to leave anyone hanging, so. Next speaker.
Hi, Steve Semmelsberger. I'm a town resident, and I was also going to comment on the mobile food unit ordinance. She hit a couple of the highlights that I had written down, but there were a couple things that I wanted to mention. Under mobile food unit, the regular mobile food unit is operating in a location for one calendar day at a time. There's a kind of a group that maybe doesn't fit into that, and that would be, say, Snowy, Mr. Softy Ice Cream, one of these places that goes place to place to place within town during the day or on weekends or whatever. So I don't know whether they fall into that same category or not. So that's something I'd probably needs to be clarified at some point. They talk about the mobile food unit permit being good for one day, but then when you go to page 3, it talks about a town mobile food permit, which they talk about 12 months, and I guess it's the information being available for the prior 12 months. I'm not sure. That's a little confusing also. So maybe we can get some clarification on that. In page 4 and page 3D, there's a typo where it says each mobile food unit operated within the town shall require a mobile food unit. So I think that needs to be looked at. Page 4, it requires the mobile food unit to propose where they're going to be operating in public or private property. Some of these are mostly comments on regular mobile food units. Some of these units don't know from week to week where they're going to be, or they may be asked to come to a property. So to ask them to know ahead of time, I think that's kind of unreasonable. I think maybe a better idea would be to allow these regular mobile food units to apply to the town for a permit, which I think they should have to do, which shows that they have their health certificate, they have their registration, they have their liability insurance, so that that's taken care of. But I think maybe the length of time that permit is issued for should be maybe closer to 6 months or even a year, because a permanent food unit can get a permit for up to 12 months at a time, whereas it appears that the regular unit can only get it for one day.
Okay, sir, 30 seconds.
Okay. let's see. All right, let me go back to the, to the very end, basically. I don't think there should be any requirements for the brick and mortar stores to have any say in what the food units are in town. If there's a private parcel in town or within the town limits that can have the food trucks on their property without taking having any problems with the public part of the town, I think they should be able to do whatever they want to do with their own property. I guess without going back instance by instance, I'll have another chance at this later.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other speaker? Yes, sir.
Hey, everybody. I'm Louis Ginger. I'm not in the town, but I'm a food truck operator. I also put food truck events together throughout the entire county. And I was looking through some of the things here. We have the same inspector as the brick and mortars. My health inspector is the exact inspector that goes through all of Carroll County's restaurants for health. I'd like to really think about what we're bringing as a community to the town, and I'm for putting in permits in place if we're going to make it a win-win. But I don't want to make this difficult for a small business owner whose business closed down and opened up a food truck, or like myself, I own food trucks and I'm looking to go to brick and mortar. I just haven't found that spot that works for us. So we're specifically looking for win-wins, and when it comes to some of the restaurants not being happy, some of my best friends are restaurant operators, and they love the fact that I have a food truck, and they're always asking me, like, what can I do to get that food truck going, because they see the opportunity to move around and not just rely on people coming to their door every day. When I look at some of the stuff here, are we regulating, to be the health and safety of this, or are we restricting competition? That's my main question. Because if we're regulating this for health and safety, then we cannot just regulate to protect existing businesses from competition. So I am for a win-win. I solicit a lot of the downtown area here. I am from Westminster. My son played Mount Airy baseball for several years. I coached in Mount Airy. I've been coming here and soliciting the businesses for a long time. But I'm not Mount Airy, but I'm Carroll County and I'm Maryland. So it's not like these trucks that are coming in aren't Carroll County trucks. The majority of them are, or they're right over the line, because we're in a town right now that's got 4 counties within, 5 minutes of each other. So we've got Howard County trucks that come right over the line, drive 15 minutes. Frederick County trucks doing the same thing. I'm driving 20 minutes from Westminster down here. I just want to see it a win-win. And if you guys need help with some of the ordinances that you want put in place, as a food truck operator, I'm willing to work with all of you to try and put those things in place. Site plans, things like that. I kind of went through some site plans somewhere else, and they actually got shut down where they just weren't asking for it anymore in another town. They saw what we were bringing. The mayor saw what we were bringing. The councilman saw what we were doing for the community, and they just said, look, let this happen. And it's been a win for the last year and a half, 2 years. But I fought it for 18 months before I could open up my truck in that town. And there was nothing there were no ordinances in place. It was just, you have a food truck, the restaurants don't like you, so we can't bring you here. But that's my time. I appreciate you guys.
Sir, and before you leave, was it Lou? Did I capture that?
Yes, or Louis.
Louis.
Gotcha. Lewis.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any other speakers for tonight? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Mike. I'm a resident of Mount Airy. I came here to speak out against the proposed annexation and development of land across from Nottingham Village for a for-profit baseball facility. I have a little bit of a different perspective since I came from out of state to live here. My family moved here from Long Island, New York in June of 2025. One of the primary reasons we chose this community was the open land, quiet surroundings, and residential character of the area. That atmosphere is not incidental. It is a major draw for families relocating from more congested urban environments. The open space and peaceful setting are exactly why home values are rising and why people from cities are choosing to move here, even though I know a lot of people don't like people from cities moving here. But preserving that character is, in my view, the most sustainable way to strengthen the local economy. Growth driven by residential demand, stable property values, and long-term homeowners benefits the entire community for more than a single private commercial development. By contrast, a large sports complex with fields, lighting, traffic, tournaments, and amplified noise would permanently alter the character of the area. There are also legitimate questions about the projected economic impact, particularly given the lack of nearby hotels and the likelihood that visitors would primarily frequent national chain businesses rather than locally owned establishments. This proposal would shift the burden of traffic, noise, and lighting onto surrounding homeowners while offering uncertain long-term economic gain. I respectfully ask that the council carefully consider whether annexation for this purpose aligns with the qualities that are currently attracting families and driving sustainable growth in our town. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mike. Another speaker?
Good evening. My name is Anthony DeGangi. I'm a resident right here on Main Street. I'm also a local business owner. I just wanted to talk about the food truck ordinance quickly. I support entrepreneurship, and I believe food trucks add energy and a variety to Mount Airy. I also believe as our town grows, having clear and consistent expectations helps everyone plan and invest responsibly. My hope is that whatever framework or guardrails are put in place and that comes out of this process supports events, supports food trucks, but also supports the year-round businesses together. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, please.
Thank you. Steve Lichtman, not a resident of Mount Airy, but I will be a resident who lives right next door to the Warfield property and will be very much affected by this. Obviously, I want to speak about the Warfield property annexation. We're coming up to the point where you all make your recommendation to the council pretty soon. I just want you all to consider what you've heard, all of the comments from town residents, not residents. The comments in particular from the survey that was done of the residents of Nottingham. A survey was done of the residents of Nottingham. It's in your all's commentary about that. Please keep in mind, 96% of the respondents to that survey said that they are not in favor of this action. So why is this going on? Well, the only purpose of annexing this property is to put this baseball facility there. It's not serving any other purpose. It's not benefiting the town by bringing in huge quantities of economic addition to the town. It might bring a little, it's not going to bring a lot. But we know, we've already heard in testimony from previous meetings, there is going to be effects, severe effects on traffic. There are going to be effects on the neighbors from noise, from lights, from just people being around, concerns about security. There are a lot of reasons why this should not be recommended in the affirmative, and there really are not very many reasons why it should proceed forward. I would hope that the commission here would consider that, consider the voice of the people, of the residents of the town, and of those of us who are not actual residents of town but are going to live next to it. Please think about that when you make your recommendation, and I will hope that you would make your recommendation not in favor of this at this time. If there was some other purpose for annexing the property into the town, that would be fine, but the only purpose that has been proposed for this is the baseball facility, and I hope you will consider that and consider the voice of the people who are affected by this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. And before I turn to the next speaker, I invite those that have just entered. We can pull out some chairs to accommodate you if you like. There's a couple of chairs up on your left as you come in. And we got one up here in the front. Great. And again, for those that are just entering, we're in the public comments phase of tonight's agenda. And so if you wish to make any comments or opinions with regard to anything having to do with town business or future development, this is the time, and I invite you to the mic. So do we have another speaker? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Block, and I am a resident of Nottingham. I think I'm the first Nottingham kid. My parents bought the first house in the neighborhood in 1996. I think I am your target resident. I grew up here. I came back here. My kids are here. I've invested financially in this town. The chances of my kids leaving this town are slim to none. They love it here. I've also been a sports mom for a long time. I can tell you the amount of times that I have purchased food or anything extra when we are out of town, 0. We are on our way out the door, we're always late. And when we get back, we gotta go. I've spent enough money on your uniform, on the membership. I'm not going to buy $50 worth of Chick-fil-A when we can eat at home. Like many residents, the things that come up are we don't have hotels, we don't have we don't have the restaurants that are going to come in. So those are all concerns. One of the other concerns that I haven't heard is what happens if this business fails? What happens to the ball fields? Because that's a very specific thing. And it's going to sit for a long time. So there needs to be thought of what happens if this fails. Because they are a business. They could be great for 10 years, but what about after that? So I'd like to make sure that I'm sure you are, but just think about that long term. If we invest in this kind of property, what happens if it fails? So that's all I've got.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next speaker. Yes, in the back.
Good afternoon. My name is Marshall Payne-Gassaway. I am also a town resident of Mount Airy, and I too live in Nottingham. I've been to many of these different meetings, and I've expressed my concern for a number of different things, and I'm here to express them again. I think we've heard multiple times about the town study as it pertains to the traffic issues, whether there needs to be an egress. At one point, there was a conversation in terms of we can get someone out there that will direct traffic. We've had the recommendations in terms of how this particular facility is going to be very similar to Patriot Park North. However, what is being projected is not anywhere close to what Patriot Park North has in terms of accessibility, the level of in-depth research that's been done, as well as their general management and conceptual development plan, which in fact has been quite extensive for Patriot Park. I would encourage us to think about a number of different things, not only in terms of how the Virginia Sports Complex, which is in for sports tourism, is vastly different than what's actually being proposed here, but also what the residents of Nottingham have shared. We're very concerned in Nottingham. A survey was done, and to have that many respondents share their concerns is seeming to be gone unheard. I'm very concerned about the traffic, even though that's been quite dismissed many a times. I'm also concerned in terms of the number of vehicles that we've been told it's going to be minimal. It is not going to be minimal. There are going to be lots of residents who are unable to leave their households, that are going to be unable to leave the neighborhood, and then that's going to further traffic congestion. We've talked about how there's congestion already in terms of the different areas on 27, not only on Wardersville, but also at Twin Arch. I would implore us to really, really give some strong consideration to what this really means. In addition to that, we've talked about the access roads again, but most importantly here recently, we've just gotten a notification from the town about the PFAs. While there has been discussion about there's not going to be many PFAs that we're going to have to worry about, there's not a lot of research about that, I am concerned because when I receive a letter from my town that tells me that I need to equip my house with perhaps a filter on my refrigerator or something else because of all the PFAs and because of our wells, that's concerning to me. And it doesn't seem as if we're concerned enough about all these other things that could be happening as a result of this ballpark. I am greatly concerned that we have also looked in terms of what do the town residents want. This was not one of their top 3 things in terms of what the town residents of Mount Airy wanted. So I would encourage us to think not only in terms of Nottingham, but what is best for the town. We want to make this a win-win, but it is not seeming to be a win-win. More importantly, I'm very concerned because we seem to be going around with the same issues, the same concerns, but we're already off to the races as it pertains to food trucks. I'm less concerned in terms of what this means for food trucks and what this means for the place that I moved to 20 years ago, and how does this impact me and my future. So please take that into consideration.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that we have one more speaker so that we can get on with the rest of tonight's agenda. Is there another speaker? Once again, is there another speaker for the public comments section? Yes, ma'am, please.
Hi, my name is Marissa Puntanetto, and I am a resident of the town of Mount Airy. I wasn't going to get up here and speak, obviously, but I felt very inspired by my neighbors. I've lived in Mount Airy all of my life, and I've recently had the privilege of moving into a taxpayer position as being a homeowner of the Nottingham community. And I am here to speak in opposition of the annexation of the field across from the Nottingham community. I would just like to reiterate my support of my neighbors and express my concerns in terms of the lack of infrastructure. I'm not going to reiterate their points, they've already done it. But as someone who's lived here all my life and appreciated the town and moved my husband into this town, don't limit our access to the town by creating this field that will create traffic and the streets and lots of commuters and people and everything like that. So I just wanted to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, and may I get your first name again?
Marissa.
Marissa.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to close the public comment section of tonight's agenda and move now to the next item, which is our Carroll County and Frederick County planners' reports for business related to planning and development within the 2 counties. The first county planner report will come from Carroll County, and for those who have stayed with us through the past several months, that's a position out of Westminster that is yet to be filled, but what they do is they provide us a written report. That written report is available on the table as you enter, and it has also been made available in the read-ahead package to each of the commissioners. While you pull that out and reflect on any notes you made on that report, I'll turn to John Breeden here and ask if John, is there anything notable within that report that needs to be highlighted for the public?
No, I didn't see anything in here that was really notable. I will say that they are starting to talk about some sign ordinance through Carroll County and possibly allowing for some clustering of signs and bigger signs and potentially LED signs. So I think that's something that's really something we should look at. We don't have very many billboards around the town of Mount Airy, but within the county, there's numerous ones along 140, et cetera. So I think that's something we should probably keep our eyes open on. But overall, everything that's in these, both the January and February, doesn't really have anything worth really mentioning for the town.
Okay.
I will say that they're also taking a priority letter to the county commissioners, and we do have an item on there that's going to be hopefully looking at the 27 corridor again and possibly the creation of a tunnel to the west side or east side of the Beck property to create that rails to trails connection is part of that as a breakout project. But that hasn't been approved by the commissioners yet, but it's due to go in front of them I think sometime in March.
So you've kind of scratched an itch here. And that is the Maryland 27 project as submitted from Carroll County to the state. The widening of 27 through the town of Mount Airy was number 5 on their wish list of MDOT appropriations, if that's correct.
That was last year, was number 5. This year, they've chosen not to choose numbering.
Okay.
Although when I watched the public hearing that they were having, they were discussing about trying to prioritize them. So it'd be interesting to see what comes out of the commissioners of Carroll County.
Okay. But within that widening, if it stays alive, we're now looking at the possibility of that widening also encompassing a tunnel from roughly Watkins Park entrance across to the wastewater treatment road?
Right, that's the ask of the town, and
Oh, the ask of the town. Gotcha.
so nothing's written in stone, but it's the
I got you. Okay.
hopes. So it's
Right.
part of the priority letter.
You got to have hope, so. So I turn to the commissioners now relative to anything they wish to mention or ask questions about. If you have questions about the report from Westminster, I'm sure John will get it up to the right person at Carroll County Government. To the commissioners now, any interest, topics? Okay, with that, then I'll turn to the Frederick County Planner Report. Ms. Moreno, Vanessa, hey. Welcome.
Thank you. Long time no see.
Indeed.
So just to start, Frederick County did not review any major site plans or subdivisions in February, but we will be revisiting a previously reviewed site plan for Oakdale Crossing Lot 3. The applicant has brought it to the Planning Commission this month for approval of a retail space. I believe it's going to be, sorry, I was going between either retail or restaurant, but it was pushed back to March 11th because the Planning Commission requested that the site plan have more information on the parking lot, accessibility, ADA accessibility, and additional site plan details. So we will see that on March 11th. And then there is a rezoning request that definitely should be brought to your attention. And I'm just going to read directly from my notes. We have received a rezoning request from Potomac Edison for 6 existing substation properties as part of the county's IW2 process. 2 of the substations are in Mount Airy and the Newmarket areas. These 6 properties are currently zoned agricultural and have been operating as non-conforming uses. And the applicant is now seeking to rezone them to general industrial. Under typical circumstances, substations may be permitted through a special exception. However, Frederick County does not allow this approach in this case, so the applicant must pursue a formal rezoning. Of the 6 properties, the Mount Airy substation is approximately 6.5 acres. The Newmarket substation is approximately 60 acres. And overall, the proposed substations range from 6 acres to 229 acres. So quite a big jump. The town of Newmarket has already submitted correspondence to the Planning Commission expressing opposition to the rezoning since they are in the middle of their master plan update. Mount Airy has the option to do the same. A letter could be submitted on behalf of the Planning Commission by Mr. Breeding, or can be drafted and signed by the Planning Commission chair. And then lastly, it is unclear whether representatives from Potomac Edison will attend the county's March 18th Planning Commission meeting. But as part of the IW2 process, these rezoning requests will be introduced and a recommendation by the Planning Commission will be forwarded to the County Council on April 15th.
And that was included in your extra packet at your desk.
Guess what my question is?
Give it to me.
They're rezoning this for the data center in Middletown they're building?
So
Because they need more power to fuel that thing?
So Potomac Edison is seeking to rezone to bring their existing uses into general conformance, because right now they are non-conforming since they are zoned agricultural. So we have not heard any word of data center development of any kind, but there of course is some concern with the larger parcels, and there may be some potential to develop. But as part of our IW2 process, we do have to address these rezoning requests. So hence why they're being brought to our planning commission.
To be clear, there's no Potomac Edison equipment on these plats right now,
Right now, they are existing and they
There
are
are.
operating.
and they're going to expand them
No, I think right now they just want to be in compliance.
in conformity. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
but that does require rezoning.
Gotcha. If the rezoning, and I don't want to get ahead of this because I'm anticipating that we may need to scrub this in more depth at the March Planning Commission meeting if, and I'll discuss that with Mr. Breeding and with your assistance on the particulars. But I'm curious as to whether or not, if the Frederick County Planning Commission doesn't agree to the industrial rezoning, what's the effect in your estimation upon continued operation of the substation? It'll just continue to operate in nonconformity?
I suppose so, and then maybe I'm not sure if our zoning enforcement would then start issuing citations of any kind. That's something I definitely will have to look into.
I see. But then the other option is Frederick County agrees to a waiver of the zoning criteria on that specific instance of an existing operation, et cetera, et cetera. There's also that possibility.
Sure, and then we're also looking into other options, maybe text amendment if possible to maybe avoid rezoning. If possible, we do try to avoid piecemeal rezonings, especially with certain types of pockets of general industrial throughout the county, so.
Sure.
Yeah, we're definitely going to explore all of our options, but it will be introduced to the Planning Commission sometime in March.
Very good. And my final comment is to the dais here. Is this a topic that we need to explore further, commissioners?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. And with that agreement, John, let's get together.
Well, I think it's, I don't know when their meeting is in March, but it's probably before our meeting in March.
March 18th.
March 18th.
Okay, I didn't get
So
that.
our input from this commission would need to be in the hands of the Frederick.
Yes,
By the first
that's
week
what
of
I
March.
recommend.
First week of March, we should have
Okay,
something.
I heard an April date, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, March 11th was a site plan approval for development out in Oakdale. Oh, I'm sorry, in Lake Linganore. This March 18th meeting is strictly Livable Frederick agenda materials, and so that's when we recommend you submit a letter.
Okay. So John, let's get together and talk about what kind of input with a quorum we can manage to provide to Ms. Moreno to send into that March 18th meeting. I'm struggling here because we would have to do that in a quorum, which is a public meeting, but we don't have another one until March 30th after the 18th, and so we have some challenges here.
Yeah, I think we'll have to defer to Tom McCarron on that, what the
We'll have
right,
to talk to the attorney, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But we can regroup, at the end of this week or, someday this week to sort of
You bet.
figure out what our avenue is and.
Sounds fair.
Move forward.
Commissioner Wallace?
So the New Market substation property, is that within their town limits?
No, it doesn't look like it.
No.
Okay, and because the Mount Airy, it doesn't look like it is either.
No, it's not
So I was
even-
wondering how the municipality would have a role.
Well, it's just that we're against the rezoning or for the rezoning.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's outside of our jurisdiction, but it's still within our 1 mile buffer where we have sort of a say with projects that are happening to this magnitude. And I would definitely say we'd want to be opposed to it because again, the issue is you rezone this parcel and then it opens the Pandora's box for every other parcel that's adjacent or in close proximity to possibly rezone. And next thing you know, you have an industrial park.
And my personal keen interest is I'm concerned about what are the adjacent plat zonings. Because if we have residential zoning adjacent to industrial, that's never good.
And I think the New Market, if I'm not mistaken, the red zone might be New Market, but I don't know New Market well enough. I don't know what the red zone is there. There's no legend or anything for me to determine what that is.
Okay. Well, I commend you, Ms. Moreno, for bringing us
Yes, of course.
the inside baseball on
Yeah,
what's
and I'll be
going
sure
on in
to
Frederick
give-
County. So,
Yeah, of course.
and not to cut you off, is that the conclusion?
Oh,
of
no,
your-
yes, I was just going to say, I'll be sure to get more information for our next planning commission meeting here.
Okay, Commissioner Beta?
Yes, we have a second amended and reinstated adequate public facilities letter of understanding for the Quantum Frederick that we have in our stack
That
of
was
things
from,
here. Did
I
anyone
think
see that?
Frederick, that was from January's meeting that sort of
Oh,
rolled
yeah, that
over.
was the carryover. I
Oh,
wanted to make-
right.
So the Quantum, for everybody, this is the data center they're putting in Middletown. So they're just making sure they meet their adequate public facilities. Is this available for everybody to pick up, or is it?
Sure, I don't, it's a
Just so
public
they know
document.
about it? I mean, Middletown is a little ways away from us, but,
Adamstown.
huh?
Adamstown.
Thank
Yes.
you. I was saying Middletown, Adamstown, sorry, it is still a little ways away from us.
Yes, of course.
But there's a data center going in there.
Any other questions for Ms. Moreno? Thank you again.
Great, thank you.
And we'll stay in touch relative to this input to the Frederick County Commissioners. I'm going to close the Carroll County and Frederick County Planner section, and I'm going to move now to item 5 on this. And it is with regard to our town's annual report for the year 2025, which is a report which summarizes all the developmental efforts within the town from 2025. And this is a letter that we send to Carroll County annually
That's correct.
to apprise them. I believe Carroll County then takes all the other municipalities and they put it all together in a report to the state level, basically giving a synopsis of what it all has been done in development terms within the county for the year 2025. That report has been drafted by the staff. It is before this commission tonight. The end game is I am asked to sign it so that it can be forwarded to Westminster. So my first order is I'm going to make the motion to introduce the draft report provided by the staff. So it's an introduction motion. Is there a second to the introduction?
I'll second.
The motion has been seconded, so I now open the report to any discussion, edits, or questions to the town staff on the annual report. I'll turn to the staff and say, is there any particular item you want to highlight?
No particular item needs to be brought to attention. It's just an annual report of any activities that happened within the town in the last 12 months, 2025.
Hearing no discussion on the introduction motion, I make the motion also to approve the drafted Carroll County 2025 annual report from the town of Mount Airy. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Steve O'Malley, Commissioner Steve seconds it. I again open for discussion after the motion has been seconded. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion to approve the Carroll County 2025 annual report from the town of Mount Airy, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The annual report has been passed unanimously, and I will sign it tomorrow or later this week, John.
That sounds good, thank you.
Okay. We now move to the introduction and discussion and recommendation regarding a draft resolution 2026-1, which is the aforementioned public hearing on the priority map for 2026 and 2027. This is done biannually, and we follow the code in the section entitled 109-19.4.b under water and sewer allocation. That paragraph gives the Planning Commission the task to designate what we believe to be the appropriate priority areas for future development for the next 2 years within the town limits. At the public hearing, we displayed this map for public comment. I don't recall any public comment opposing that map. And so do I hear a motion with regard to accepting the priority map as shown?
I'll make a motion to accept the priority map as shown.
Commissioner O'Malley makes the motion to approve and accept the priority area map. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Hadley seconds it. Is there any discussion of the priority map or questions? Seeing and hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion to accept the priority map for 2026 and 2027, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The priority area map is approved. And just a slight mention to those in the public, this does not need to go to the town council. Really, it is a priority map that now provides input into the town engineer. Because the town engineer will now, as we will see shortly, has to consider priority areas in the allocation of water capacity yield. And we'll get into that soon enough, right? Right, Barney? Gotcha. So really, we're making a decision to support what he has to now bring forward to the planning commission and later to the town council regarding water yield and allocations. I now move to the introduction of water allocation categories. And this is simply for the commissioners, an introduction, because if it is accepted and introduced and seconded, then I will propose that we set a public hearing on this at the next Planning Commission meeting, which is March 30th. So the water allocation categories drafted by the town engineer has been provided for your review. I make the motion to introduce that draft water allocation. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Hadley seconds it. Is there any discussion of the introduction? Not hearing any discussion of the introduction, I propose to the commissioners that we indeed lead off the March 30th Planning Commission meeting with a public hearing regarding this topic. Is there any opposition to that being set for the next Planning Commission meeting? Seeing no opposition, I turn to John Breeden. Is that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. And I think maybe we should just start it at 7:30 possibly, just because I'm not sure about the Facebook feed and I don't want to have our citizens not being informed.
So the public hearing start at 7:30 or 7:15?
I'm thinking 7:30. It should be okay.
Okay.
Do you think, Barney, I mean, do you think there's going to be a lot of discussion from the citizens about how often do we have a lot of discussion at a public hearing on this?
Typically, not much.
Okay, I think that's okay.
Let's roll at 7:30?
7:30, yeah.
Is that fair to the commissioners? Sounds good. Okay. So, and you will do, of course, the appropriate notification to the public, at least 2 weeks, et cetera, so they know that there's a public hearing
Yep,
opportunity.
it'll be on our Facebook and also the town webpage.
Fantastic. Item number 8 of tonight's agenda, and it is an introduction and discussion for consideration of approval of a sign within the town. This is a sign for the business to be known as the Moroccan Glow. And so as we begin this item on our agenda, I ask if there's a representative of the Moroccan Glow. Yes, ma'am. Please come forward. And while you're getting settled there, I will give you a chance to speak in just a moment. But again, this topic is governed by our code 112-11, which is our code with regard to signage within the town limits. I regard this sign application as a sign using the definitions of 112-11. It's a commercial sign, and it's also a permanent sign.
Correct.
Correct. So it satisfies both of those within the definitions of our code. And so I first start with John Breeden. Do you want to highlight any of the staff review of this application?
Sure. So this is actually right here in the plaza. It'll be a location here. It's actually utilizing an existing set of mounting brackets that was from a previous sign. It'll be in the same size and orientation of that previous sign. It will be a two-sided sign. And again, there is a discrepancy. I gave you all a revised staff report. It's actually 30 inches wide by 96 inches tall instead of the 36 inches wide. So, but overall, we're stating that we're asking for the approval of this from the Planning Commission.
And again, before I turn to the applicant, in your review and the code requirements, 30 inches, 2.5 foot by 96 inches, 8 foot, that's 20 square feet. And the frontage of the business is?
24 feet, I think it is total.
So it's within the criteria of the signage, can't
Correct.
exceed the frontage.
Correct.
So it meets the code requirement on that. Mrs. Hartwood?
Yes, I noticed my last name is misspelled. It's Harwood, not
Oh,
Hardwood.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Gotcha.
I get that a lot.
Welcome, and particularly welcome in any new business within the town, because that's generally where we are thrilled to talk about signs, because it means more business for the downtown zone, in your case particularly. So anything that the staff report left out that you want to emphasize, another facet of your sign application, you're welcome to give us now.
Thank you. I think he covered everything. There's 2 existing signs on the building that are the same size. So I think you covered.
Well, and again, I will note, as you look at the picture here, yes, it's got an archway on it, but it'll actually be a rectangle, of course. There'll be a white backer with this sign. So the actual area of the logo is actually going to be smaller than, the sign material is going to be bigger, but the actual sign itself is going to be smaller because the image of the sign will be smaller. If that makes any sense. We still use rectangles though when we calculate, so it's.
I hear you. I hear you.
It looks very elegant.
Gotcha. If no further input, then I turn to the commissioners for any questions you may have on the application.
Seems pretty straightforward.
Seems straightforward?
Yeah,
okay.
It is.
And then if that's the case, I'm open to a motion regarding the sign application for the Moroccan Glow located at 114 South Main Street, Mount Airy.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion to approve the Moroccan Glow signage application.
Located at 114
Yes,
South Main Street?
Yes.
Is there a second for that?
I'll
motion?
second. Oh, sorry, Bill.
He won. Commissioner Butts seconds it. I'll open for any discussion, any further questions to either the applicant or the town staff or with regard to code requirements. Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the Moroccan Glow sign at 114 South Main Street, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Welcome again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you want to leave those, I can put them out front. Sure.
Just leave them right here.
That's fine, yeah. Maybe some of the audience people might want it.
And just to be sure, our other sign application is to be deferred at a later time.
Correct.
Correct, okay. So I believe I'm correct, and now we're moving to the portion of the agenda that addresses the annexation resolution 2025-47, where this body, the Planning Commission, has a task given to us by the council per the code to make a recommendation with regard to that resolution. That resolution addresses the annexation petition of the Warfield property located on the north side of West Watersville Road across from the known street of Arrowwood Circle of Nottingham Community. Before I begin and guide the commissioners toward that goal of providing a recommendation, I just turn to any commissioner if you have any questions with regard to the addendum, with regard to the task, or with regard to any other related matter on this petition and annexation resolution. Seeing none, for the public's awareness and a bit of history, just very quickly, this commission was given this task from a June petition submission to the council, and in turn, the council then referred, per the code, that petition to the Planning Commission to provide it a recommendation. We received that task in our July 2025 meeting, and since that date, we have asked for an extension in order to complete the thorough review and analysis of the petition, the impact to the surrounding area, and a variety of other considerations to make sure that this annexation was thoroughly reviewed prior to us providing a recommendation to your elected officials on the town council. Our job is to provide a recommendation. It is the town council's job to finally decide upon the petition. Prior to their decision, they will also hold a public hearing to hear one more time any public input with regard to the petition and that resolution 2025-47. Our efforts are captured in what is referred to as the addendum of this body's efforts. It is a 70-page analysis that is, in my estimation, a very, very thorough scrub of that proposal to annex and the land use that is being proposed there, known as a for-profit outdoor sports field complex. And so with that background and with many months of effort, we are now culminating all of that into a recommendation that this body needs to make. Before the commissioners and in conjunction with the town attorney and the town staff, I put together a rather easy to follow guide, the 2 pages that you have before us that looks like this. And this guide, if I may explain very quickly, begins with 4 areas. First, it gives us the possible outcome of our recommendation that states the commission is for the draft resolution without conditions. Now, let me explain that. If you recall in our addendum, we also went into the area of annexation approval by the council, the possibility of that. And if that was the outcome of the council's deliberation, then we also stretched a bit across this commission to provide recommended conditions in any such annexation agreement. And I'm just kind of doing this because I know it's been 3 months since this body met and we discussed that. Those conditions, which I mentioned in that first possible recommendation area, they start on page 7 of the addendum, and they begin with the traffic issues that have been expressed in our analysis. That's subparagraph A, West Watersville Road and the Maryland 27 intersection. Part B is a concern and agreement context that they may consider if they approve it with regard to mitigating lighting pollution to the surrounding areas. C is mitigation text on reducing noise pollution. D is offered text by this commission with regard to increasing safety and security if, again, the land use were approved. There's also E, recommendations regarding field priority for the residents of the town, specifically with Maya. F, instilling a community partnership arrangement so that if it is annexed, there is an agreement for the owners to engage the community in a routine community dialogue so they can receive input from the community. G is open space stipulations and open space contributions to the town. And so I've just highlighted those conditions. When I refer to this document, those are the conditions I'm referring to. The second area is the commission is for the draft resolution with additional recommendations. The third is the commission is opposed to the draft resolution without conditions. Turn the page. At the top, the commission is opposed to the draft resolution with additional recommendations. Then part B of this 2-page guide is if in any of those recommendations I just mentioned, it states with recommendations, I want to afford the commissioners an opportunity to vote on each of those recommendations I just went forward. So I'm allowing very detailed input from the commissioners up here on the dais as to their sentiment regarding the annexation petition. So once again, our first task is to take a look at those first 4 choices, and I can distill it down to this. You're either for the annexation with or without conditions, or you're opposed to the annexation with or without conditions. Let me begin there and ask for a motion from the dais as to either for, with or without conditions, or opposition with or without conditions. Hearing no input from the commissioners, I will make a motion that I am opposed, that the motion is opposed to the draft resolution with conditions as stated in the addendum. This is the second page at the top. Again, the commission is opposed to the draft resolution with additional recommendations on text to be considered in the annexation agreement, if so decided by the town council. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Hatley seconds the motion made. Now it's open to any discussion on that motion. We are now on the second page at the top. The motion is to oppose the draft annexation and to add some of the conditions if in the event the council approves and goes forward with an annexation agreement. Any discussion?
So sorry.
Bless you.
Excuse me.
Mr.
Sorry.
Chairman.
We have one sneeze.
I'm so sorry. That's not a vote.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner O'Malley.
I just want to clarify. Your current motion is to not make the recommendation. However, if the council goes ahead and approve it, we would like the following, we would recommend the following parts to it.
I think we're tracking, but let me just rephrase and let me rephrase and let me just try again. My motion is to provide a recommendation that opposes annexation resolution 2025-47 with conditions offered for the council to consider if they reject our recommendation and move forward with an annexation agreement. The conditions in my motion are outlined in that last part of the second page, whereby I will allow each commissioner to say, include that one, don't include that one, if you follow what I'm saying. I didn't want to do just kind of a grand sweep of all conditions and assume that each commissioner was okay with all conditions. I'm giving you another bite at the apple, so to speak, after our work on the addendum. If it turns out that all the conditions are appropriate to include in our opposition to the annexation, then we would just say we would include all those conditions. Am I kind of making it, am I making it hard?
Second page.
On the second page.
And just to clarify.
The first page, I'm sorry.
Oh, I think.
Forgive me for talking.
No, that's fine. And just to clarify, if we hold a vote to oppose and go with this second one, do we have to hold that vote first and then go through these
That's correct. That's correct.
afterwards?
Yes. So when I say, one more time, my motion, which has been seconded, is that this body is going to oppose the annexation petition, specifically 2025-47, and that we will also recommend some conditions if in the event the council rejects it, we want some text added to that annexation agreement. I know it's two things. Fundamentally, my motion says we recommend against the annexation. The second part is, but if the council rejects that and thinks otherwise and goes forward with an annexation agreement, here are the conditions that we crafted that ought to be considered by them. And again, we're in an advisory role. The council can say,
They could do what they want.
no thanks on the recommendation and no thanks on the conditions.
That's fine. I just wanted to be super clear before we start voting on
I wanted
stuff.
to also be clear. It's
Yeah.
We got 2 pages. to go
little
through.
word.
I understand, and believe me, I tried really hard to kind of keep it to, 2-page kind of succinct, this is what we're after. But I didn't want to go so far as to put motions down on paper that that kept you from inputting specifically your desires. So I was trying to be even-handed across the dais here. So again, for the third time, the motion made on the floor and seconded is that we as a body will oppose the annexation resolution 2025-47, and we will submit with that opposition recommendation certain conditions that we ask that the council consider if they do go forward with their decision to annex the property. So, all right. So can I get all those in favor? So it's been seconded? Yes. So all those in favor of that motion, and I'm going to do a roll call here because this is an important issue for the town. And I'm going to echo the town attorney's comments to me on at least 3 occasions, and Tom, you're welcome to chirp in, that the extension of the extension of a municipal's limits is perhaps at the pinnacle of authority for any elected body. To broaden the borders of a municipality is not small consideration. It is important. And in this instance, how we're doing it has to be weighed against the costs and the benefits of adding that land, 50.98 acres, to the town border. And so again, I ask that my motion be addressed in a roll call vote, and I will begin on my right with Commissioner O'Malley. Do you aye, nay, or abstain?
Aye.
Commissioner Beta.
Aye.
Commissioner Hatley.
Aye.
I will go last. Commissioner Butts.
Aye.
Commissioner Beineck, as I mentioned, is absent. Voting in her place is our alternate, Commissioner Wallace. Commissioner Wallace, your vote?
Aye.
I have all ayes. Oh, Commissioner Gant? Aye. I have all ayes, no nays, no abstentions. We now move to the conditions that we wish to include with this opposition. The first one I mentioned was the provision regarding traffic on West Watersville Road and Maryland 27. I'm not going to do a roll call on the commissions. I'm going to simply ask for a vote. Does this body, all those in favor of including the condition in the opposition recommendation, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? I have 6 ayes, 0 nays. The agreement provision regarding lighting pollution control, if an annexation agreement were directed by the town council. All those in favor of the text regarding mitigating lighting pollution, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? 6 ayes, 0 nays. The next agreement provision is with regard to our efforts to mitigate noise mitigation. All those in favor of that condition going forward with our opposition, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The fourth condition is with regard to enhancing the safety and security of that land use across from a major neighborhood. All those in favor of that text, please say aye. Aye. Five ayes, 1 nay. The next condition is the agreement provision regarding field priority for Maya and town sports players. All those in favor of that agreement, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The next agreement is with regard to community partnership and feedback, whereby the owner has to establish a dialogue with the neighboring tenants. All those in favor of that condition, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the last condition that we drafted in the addendum has to do with the owner providing open space to reduce our open space deficit within the town. All those in favor of that agreement, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I turn to the town attorney at this point, and Tom McCarron, do you have any comments with regard to the process regarding our recommendation task to the town council and the conditions that we are also going to provide?
No, it's usual and customary for planning commissions to first take a position one way or the other, whether to recommend approval or recommend non-approval of the resolution, and then even whatever the vote may be there to go on and make recommendations on conditions should the town council decide to approve. That's what you've done.
Thanks very much, Tom. And I next turn to Town Administrator or John Breeding. Do you have any closing comments on our process that has been ongoing since July of last year?
No, the only thing is that I appreciate everybody's time and energy and effort to went through this, so I thank you.
I next turn to our liaison from the Town Council. Councilmember Kelly, any comments with regard to how we conducted this task?
Just to echo Mr. Breeding's sentiment, thank you very much. As a citizen, I want to say the thoroughness and the way you approach this is very transparent. And I believe you gave the applicants plenty of opportunities to be transparent, and they have compared to many past proceedings I've seen. So thank you very much to this commission, and as a citizen, it's refreshing to see this, and I hope the citizens also see that. So thank you.
Thank you. And if I may be so bold, Councilmember Kelly, I do not know for a fact, but I believe the staff is going to try to work with Ms. Hawley to try to get this on your agenda for the beginning of March. Is that?
I think that's that was the hopes, I think, yes.
Okay. And I think that's what, March 2nd?
March the 3rd?
Or the first Monday?
Second?
Is it the 2nd?
You're correct.
Okay. So for the public, just to wrap this up, I applaud the input and the time and the good comments made to this commission and us reaching our recommendation over the past several months. The next step is that this will be entertained by the council. This recommendation, as we have voted here, will be entertained by the council. They will likely introduce our recommendation at their appropriate council meeting, perhaps in March. And to be fair, I believe, Councilmember Kelly, I believe the first task will then set a date for a public hearing.
That's correct.
Okay. So that kind of gives the public a sense of what are the next steps as this now gets toward the council's decision in the process of possible annexation. And lastly, I thank the commissioners for putting up with me and creating a 70-page document. So I commend all of you for being so thorough alongside me in this journey. I'm going to close the annexation resolution. I believe we've provided what is needed for the council. And now we will move into the introduction and discussion of the draft ordinance 2026-1, the mobile food units. And as we begin this, I will invite the sponsor of that ordinance, which I believe is Jared. Is that accurate? Would that be a fair label to give you, sir?
I don't know about that, but I will speak on behalf of the town, sure.
Okay. We have another draft ordinance on the agenda tonight. I really wanted to also get to it, and I will treat that draft ordinance in the same manner. So I'm just trying to be consistent.
Understood.
Who will answer to being kind of the author? Sponsor may be a little.
I'll take that. I'll take the drafter as Sean brought up. I'll take the drafter.
I like drafter. It works for me. Okay. So for the commission, as we begin the journey now, I want to remind you that in this analysis and recommendation back to the council, we have 90 days to complete this task. We may not get to it tonight is another way of saying, let's do a thorough scrub of this draft ordinance for food trucks. The town administrator is willing to answer any and all questions, so my motion is that I motion to introduce the draft food truck, mobile food units resolution 2026-1 into this body. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
The second is from Commissioner Wallace, and that's all is needed for an introduction. And so let's begin now with an opening statement perhaps, or a summary or overview. I'll afford you, Jared, on this document.
Sure, yeah. I just wanted to kind of start by letting everyone know that this is a working document. This draft is a working document. It's not complete yet. But we want to be very open with the process, which is why, although it is ever changing right now, we still wanted the planning commission to take a look at it in this month's meeting to make sure we're open about the process and the changes that we're making. A couple of things I do want to just point out, and as you read through it and come up with questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to John or myself directly, and we can answer some of those. Again, it is a working document. We already have some changes actually from the draft that you see in front of you that we will be implementing before your next meeting. So we've already found a few changes that we need to make. That's some from public input, some from staff input, some from the council. So we will make those changes before next meeting. So I just wanted to be upfront with that.
And not my normal style, but I'll lead off if I may, commissioners, if you don't object. And so I'm going to riff off of a public comment made earlier this evening as to the radius distances. Could that area, as brought up by that person, be one of those possible revisions in the forthcoming next version?
Yeah, that is an area that we are looking at possible amendments for. We are aware of some of the legal battles other states have had with this type of radius.
Right.
To my knowledge, we have not had an issue in Maryland with that yet, but that is a legal question we are working with our attorney to try to get some legal advice on.
Gotcha.
So it is an area that we are currently looking at right now.
Gotcha. Commissioner Wallace?
Since the commissioners have an old draft, I still think that because most of us probably took the time to review said draft, I still think we should go page by page and go over our comments.
Okay.
For this evening.
And I'll say the draft that you have is the final draft that we currently have.
This matches what you have.
It is, yes, that is correct. We have not made any official changes to it yet,
okay.
just internal changes that we know we are going to officially make. So I just wanted to let you know, some of your questions and comments may be some we have internally found as well.
Okay. I'm amenable to what's suggested here by Commissioner Wallace. Commissioner Hadley, you had a point?
Do you just want to point out the change? Do you have all the changes with you tonight or the suggestions?
No, I'd rather just take your suggestions into
I see,
consideration,
okay.
yep.
Okay.
That's our first.
Even if they overlap with some we found already, I think it's beneficial to just take yours.
Thank you.
Okay. And then with that suggestion, if we can just begin, and I'm on the whereas page. Any input issue regarding that? And commissioners, just hit the mic. I'm not going to be too formal here.
I had a couple of questions about the first whereas. Well, I guess one on that one. So it says the use and operation of food trucks, which shall in this ordinance be called mobile food units within the town, is becoming more prevalent. And then it says often in place of and sometimes in conjunction with so-called brick and mortar. I don't really know what that last phrase is supposed to do for this ordinance, but I think it could be removed. After the word prevalent, I think that could be removed.
And I second Commissioner Wallace. I think that creates a tit for tat type of scenario where we're just focusing on food trucks or food units. We should just stick with just that.
I will say, and I'll absolutely take that in consideration, make notes of that. I will say the reason it's currently in there, is because we have different types of mobile food units in here, some semi-permanent, some permanent. We address those directly in the ordinance, and so that would pertain to some of those permanent and semi-permanent food trucks.
Gotcha. Okay.
The third whereas, it says the town council has determined it necessary and desirable. Is this a want or a need? Because I think necessary is one thing, but desirable, that's like a want. So,
We can, yeah, I'll take a look at that language and see if we can amend that a little.
Before leaving the first page, Commissioner Wallace, anything else? Anything else on that first page from other commissioners?
I'm still skimming. 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds.
Okay.
Sure I'm not missing anything. Okay.
Good. Next page. At the very top, Chapter 73, Mobile Food Units. Paragraph 73-1, Intent and Purpose. It's all new wording. Any questions or comments on that or suggested edits? Go ahead.
I was just, C, balance opportunities for mobile food unit vendors with needs of established businesses in residential neighborhoods. I'm not sure how to codify that. I think it balances subjective. Is there a better, Commissioner Malley?
Yeah, I'm looking at that too, as it sticks out for me as well.
It's almost implying an effort to try to bring fairness,
Right.
Well, it's
economic fairness?
It's legislating, yeah, economic fairness,
Yeah.
that statement. And I think it could be problematic in
In the
any type of county code or planning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're looking at it, you can get food delivered to a neighborhood, and you can also have a food truck that parks in a neighborhood parking lot, and they both provide the same purpose. They're either delivering your food or you're going to pick it up from the truck. So it's kind of that balance is already established, and why does C exist?
Yeah.
That's fair.
But I do have a question while we're on intent and purposes. If you could maybe go into this, usually there's an overall why we're doing something. I see the ABCD, but is there something coming from the town that's really what we want to tackle with, this may be the longest legislature in the state when it comes to mobile food trucks of any kind. So, I mean, what is the main issue that we really want to get into? I mean, I think I need a clarification that would help.
Well, I think this has kind of been a long coming issue. This is not new. It just happens to be a new document that we're implementing. So this is not a new issue, I think, in town. And I use issue light. I'm not saying we've run into many issues, but the point of an ordinance is to get ahead of issues, right? And so we're just trying to take potential issues that we have either seen in other municipalities or even in other states that we have seen, and try to tackle that head on before it becomes an issue. So we're not playing catch up. That's really the main reason as to why we're doing it now instead of waiting.
Okay.
I have a question about D under intents and purposes, which is protect public property, ensure equitable use of town spaces, and maintain downtown character. And so offering that text, is there any history or evidence that food trucks have brought any unintended harm to public property? Or is this being a proactive kind of like the permitting and the added governance of this ordinance will ensure we don't have a history? And so in other words, I'm asking, is that entry motivated by a history of damage from food trucks because of some operation presence? I don't know, going across the grass at Watkins Park, or, I'm just trying to understand the motivation on that subparagraph.
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily specific issues we've had here in town. Again, just being proactive of other issues we have come across outside of town as we were doing our research to write this ordinance.
That's fair. Okay.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Schumacher, you're saying that, there's food trucks, let's say Joe's Sloppy Joe truck just pulls up in a random place and starts selling food without having a specific space that was basically allocated for them. Is that kind of what you're trying to get to with D? That's what I'm feeling from it, at least.
Yes, in a way. I mean, we're trying to be fair to everyone in town, whether it be the residents, business owners, the food trucks themselves. We're not trying to regulate the food side of things, right? That's on the county. The county, we're not asking for any additional food safety permits, right? We do want the documentation that they already have to get with the county. So we are requesting that as part of the permit. But the permit process for us is just to let us know who you are, that you have the proper permits and licenses, and where you're going to be located, just so we know if there's any calls or issues. In the past, if we've gotten a complaint, we've had no idea what they're talking about. And so that's really what we're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
Okay. I'm still on that second page. Any other?
I just had a question about the definitions. I think, we need to be careful about making sure that definitions are clear, the code is clear and easy for everybody to understand, whether it's the planning commission, council, or food truck business owners. So I was thinking, it might be better, instead of having like all these different definitions that sound very similar, if you could do something like maybe temporary, recurring, and permanent. And instead of classifying them by, a duration of time that they're there, you could just say like the frequency. Because it's really hard for the town to monitor if someone's there like no more than 30 days in a year or whatever it is for these semi-permanent or regular. See, I can't even keep track of what's what. But anyway, so I just think like if we can base it on, whether it requires infrastructure, how many days a week it's going to be on a site, whether it's fixed or mobile, I think that would be easier to understand.
Yeah, we can try to go over this definition section again and make it a little more clear. I think the point of these different definitions is because when it comes to the site itself, in other words, if there is going to be a food truck in a certain area for a certain duration throughout the year, there are certain site requirements we would want, right? Because there's a lot more trash that would be involved. There's a lot more parking issues or traffic issues that may come about, other than just a normal every one-day food permit that would come and go, right? And so we have to take all that into consideration. If it's going to be there for a certain duration of time, there are other issues that come along with them being there. Does that make sense?
I don't disagree. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking that we could simplify the language quite a bit. A temporary is, it's there for the day. A recurring is they're there a few days a week. A permanent is they're not moving.
Okay.
And then, I'm sorry.
No.
Along those same lines, the special event itself has a definition here. Our town special events application also has a definition of a special event. So I think we need to make sure we're consistent because they are not the same right now.
Yeah, I agree. We're working on that special event permit, or the special event permit right now that has to do with the food trucks. And we are actually also working on our special event permitting for other events that could include food trucks but don't necessarily need to. And so we are working on a way to make sure those coincide.
I have a question about the permanent mobile food truck, if you could clarify. When to you in this, is it not a food truck and it's actually, now it needs a site plan? Because if it's hooking up to utilities and it's not moving, shouldn't it have to have a site plan? It's not a food truck anymore.
Correct. That's the point of it. It's not a mobile food
But
truck.
we have
anymore.
permanent, so how can it be a permanent mobile food unit?
Well, we have one in town currently.
Well, then it should have a site plan.
And from here on out, it would have to. It would be required to have one after this ordinance is adopted.
I just, trying to clarify that, trying to explain what a permanent mobile food unit is kind of.
No, I understand. I mean, trust me when I say sometimes coming up with definitions for these
Yeah.
is difficult because it's
Kind of
unique.
contradictory, permanent, mobile.
You're right, and it is. But what it is
Spectatory, is that a word?
It has wheels. That's
Yeah,
why.
it has wheels on it.
or it did at one point, and it could be mobile again, right? It's kind
Well,
of
it's the same with the shed. We'd have to put a permit on a big shed, but you can move it.
We could.
Well, but I think, if I may, I think a permanent mobile food truck hooked up to utilities, if they wanted to leave the property tomorrow, they could, right? Or tonight, if they could. Right, if they wanted to, rather, so,
Yeah.
right, I mean, that,
It's just when you start saying it's permanent but is mobile, it's just, there has got to be a way to try to clarify that.
Well, I like the fact that you did put all of this information in here for us to kind of go through as a group, so I do want to commend you for that. Mr. Schumacher, thank you very much for putting all that in there for us to break apart and kind of streamline.
Another question is whether a food truck that's part of a special event needs a separate permit. Why can't, I mean, it seems a little bit duplicative. Why couldn't that special event permit?
It would be. So if a food had special event, they would only be a part of that special event permit. And that would produce that permit.
But do they also have a mobile food unit permit?
So they would.
Okay.
And now these permits are not finished permits. A lot of the same information is going to need to be given. But a special event for food trucks, then your documentation that you have to give the county, your license, your insurance information, things like that we would keep on file. But you would not need a separate then normal.
For a period of time when the weather's nice. And so if I can reiterate, so someone who wants to be a mobile food truck at the Watkins Park Farmers Market, one-time application, one permit, doesn't have to reapply. And whoever coordinates the placement of those mobile food units, all they're looking for, are you permitted to be here? And now I will coordinate as to where you will go. That's a second action. That's not on the town to designate that spot. It's just to say you can be there as a part of that special event. Am I tracking?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, gotcha. And so they wouldn't have to do the repeat, as you said. That same entrepreneur with that same every Wednesday food truck could also possess other permits. In addition to the special event of the farmer's market, they could also have a one-day permit that puts them in the rail yard for Friday of a week, one day for a period of time. They could also hold that permit and apply for that. And that would be a permit that's a regular mobile food unit.
Correct.
That would be in the downtown zone, but yes.
Well, yeah, in that specific instance, it would be in the downtown zone, which wouldn't require a separate special events permit.
Oh, that's right.
Special
That'd be-
permit,
That's
right.
right.
If there's a special event that only has one food truck, they have to go through all of these requirements in here, like the site plan and everything else?
Not if it's not in the downtown zone. And the reason for that, I mean, our DTZ has different regulations. I mean, we're taught, we have different regulations on all zoning in our downtown zone. And so it's no different than for this. And we are using a different regulations for food trucks coming to our downtown zone, same way we would regulate other things for land use.
Gotcha. And again, just to reiterate, none of this proposed ordinance amendment gets into the, I'll use the phrase, final tires on the ground location at some permitted location. That then goes to a person coordinating that or the business itself? That-
Yeah, yes, I mean, so, again, it depends. So, I mean, let's go back to the farmer's market. They already have a layout that we go through, and we will actually be going through in more detail as we improve our special event process. But they already have a layout, so they decide, that the event coordinator decides where they'd like to have their trucks or other vendors put on their property. This process is not to do anything, to tell you how to do your event. All it's doing is, we just want to know what food trucks are going to be here and that they are licensed to be here. That's it.
And I know we're really using the farmer's market, but if you'll tolerate one more.
Sure.
So at the farmer's market, I'm familiar with strolling through that lovely path and coming across various food service vendors who are folding table, maybe a 10 by 10 pop-up. They're not operating out of a mobile unit. They have set up their gear from something that brought it all there. They're not a food truck. They are a walk-up set of tables. Here's a hamburger, there's a grill. You understand the picture I'm talking. Those vendors, and I'm kind of getting back to the fairness and economic balancing, do we have similar governance and processes to just have those kinds of vendors serving food similarly to this food truck governance? I'm just curious.
No, that's separate. That would be different.
Okay.
You still have to get county permits to serve food at a
Certainly.
table or anything, anytime you want to serve hot food.
Right.
You still have to get permits for it. But that's, again, we're not trying to regulate food distribution or permitting.
Understand.
That's still the county.
Yeah.
So they would have to go through the same thing. This is a mobile food unit only that we're talking about in
Okay.
this ordinance.
Okay.
Caution on that, just because you don't have a truck, they still bring their stuff in a cooler, they're still preparing food.
Oh, I
still
got
feel
you.
like that's still a food preparation area, be it mobile. They still drove it there. It's not a brick and mortar building. I don't know.
Why are we checking the food trucks information, but we're not checking their information?
That's what I'm saying.
It
I'm
do-
agreeing,
it
I'm
doesn't make any
saying
sense.
I don't like that.
Well, I would say
thought.
let's go back to this, to the farmer's market. Even if you are not in a food truck and you're just serving food, our coordinators are still checking those
Right.
certifications.
The coordinators are though, not the town.
Well, the town is the coordinator
Well,
for
in
the
that
farmer's
case, the
market.
town is the coordinator, but yeah, I see what you're saying,
But
yeah.
currently, Ms. Cates, you're relying on her to make sure the food trucks have licenses, right? So now we're trying to coordinate that to make sure that the town is aware of that, right? But not with these other
Vendors.
examples
Yeah.
that we just brought up.
And that's why I want to make sure that we're being consistent, like we shouldn't be
Exactly.
abusing her and allowing it to whomever come to the farmer's market. If you have a vehicle and you're bringing food there and you're preparing it on a grill, like, it's one thing to bring a loaf of bread and sell that you made back in your kitchen. But if you're preparing food on a grill for sale, it should be in this ordinance, in my opinion. That's just me. Because again, we need to make sure that they're in compliance with the code and they're meeting all those things. If it's a special event and there's a person who comes in, I mean, there was a lady that used to come to Walker's that drove up in her little white truck, threw up her tent, threw out her grill, started her little boiler pot.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the food she had was delicious. But again, she should hit the same amount of requirements that we're putting on a mobile food unit. In my eyes, I think that should be something, if it's not in here, we should be making sure that we're addressing that as
You know, I have to say, kind of a Captain Obvious statement here. This is the challenge. Because I can see the criteria that you tried to define here that's based upon duration of the truck at a location. The day criteria, 1 day, more than 30 days. I can see that clearly as a way of you trying to slice and dice what's a bona fide, legitimate, reasonable permitting process when you talk about all that possible operation of a truck. You also looked at distinguishing the operation of the truck relative to what's known as a special event, and not just a business in the rail yard saying, hey, we're going to have a grand opening and a food truck would really would enhance it, right? That's a regular license or permit. And
The downtown zone, it would be.
oh, yeah, I'm sorry, downtown zone.
But the point of what you're saying would be, that is
Yeah,
correct. Yeah, if
yeah.
it was in another business.
And then you have the dimension of the private homeowner that says, hey, I got 2 kids graduating from high school. I'm throwing a party before they go to college. I want a couple of food trucks at the curb, and so now how do you add that dimension in, which I think is a reasonable possibility,
we have
right?
thought of that that would be a special event permit. And again, the reason for that is
That's a
because
special event.
take that exact situation. Yeah, we would want to know where they're going to be located, so they're not just parking in front of people's houses and impeding traffic or impeding parking, right? So you want to know.
That's not a public event. It's a private event.
It would be a private event,
So
but
it wouldn't apply.
yes, it would.
That's overreaching. You got to be careful with that.
Well, all of our land use, it's public and private property that we regulate.
Having a private event on a private property, the town should stay out of that.
Yeah, it would be technically like if the person had a birthday party or graduation party and the food truck was in the person's driveway of their private residence, that would not be considered town property, and it would be considered a for-hire event. So if Louis had brought his truck over, I said, man, I want you to sell cheeseburgers at my party. He's gonna pull up in the truck, I'm gonna prepay him for like 50 cheeseburgers and everyone's gonna eat them. I don't know if Louis is gonna need a permit for that because he's, on my property already. It's not really a town event, it's just a private party. So there's a gray area that gets introduced into that.
So I have a question to that. So Louis, is at your private event, is Louis also putting on his website and sending it out to his 400 followers?
No, it's
No,
private.
he would be hired for a private event.
Right.
Yeah, so it's different because it's not really a town event, it's not really town
But then may I
property.
ask, so say it's more than one food truck, right? Say somebody owns a lot of property and they want to have 50 food trucks in their property, which is a case we came across.
Yeah.
And they're running wires everywhere, and maybe it's not all that, it's their property, but it's right off the road and it's right next to your house. That's you're thinking of the best case scenario. We also need to think of the worst case scenario. And that's what these types of documents are for, is the worst case scenario, really.
I think we need to be really careful about the red tape we're doing here. I mean, we're gonna end up on like WBAL for like getting girls selling their cookies on the side of the road or their lemonade or something because we're requiring permits for pop-up, lemonade stands. Like, where does it stop? I think there needs to be a threshold.
Which is why we're trying to stick to mobile food units and not necessarily somebody with a grill.
Understood.
But there's plenty of restaurants that set up those types of situations in a mobile situation, where it'll be a special event a lot of times, and it'll be a whole restaurant set up. They have everything going there. It's just tables and a big tent, and they have their big sign out front, and there's like a dozen of them. And why are they different than or the carnival grounds? It's the same thing when they have everybody in there. It should be treated the same way.
Outside on the Main Street during Oktoberfest selling wings and stuff, it's kind of,
Or the Lions Club.
or the Lions Club, yeah.
And again, that would be a special event permit, just like Mount Airy, celebrating Mount Airy Day, we have vendors up and down here.
Yeah.
There's a layout plan,
Yeah.
there's, Bob is here and Jimmy's over there and Sam's there,
There's a layout,
So there's a
and
layout plan
coordination
for that.
with the vendors as well.
And to your point, Heather, yes, it's more red tape and that red tape's falling on my desk.
I was gonna get to that, actually.
So,
let me, if I
We
can,
need an enforcement officer, we'll look at.
yeah, if, in the interest of time, and with the remaining agenda, let me ask a couple of quick questions and then offer a way forward for the commissioners. And so my first quick question, Jared, is this draft permitting of the mobile food units, was there, is there any reference toward an existing similar permitting process in another equally sized municipality nearby, Frederick or Sykesville or?
I mean, I wouldn't say I didn't pull direct language necessarily, but yes, I took ideas from any local municipality that also has ordinances. Frederick is one. Yeah, there are other small towns in our area. I don't know, Westminster was one. Obviously, they're bigger, but there are others in Maryland that have very similar ordinances.
And that's not any criticism, I'm just curious, you had to have a start point.
Oh, absolutely. If I didn't, I try to take as much information as I could from other municipalities who have been there, done that, seen what's worked, what hasn't worked.
Right.
I absolutely took information from that.
And I think I want to foot stomp this, but I want to make sure I'm not out of bounds, that this governance, this permitting process has nothing to do with any other dialogue with regard to specific days of food trucks, rodeos. I'm trying to avoid the word that we use. This is not associated with that. It is strictly a possible new set of code to govern, all with noble intent. And I'm going to say that, all with noble intent to assure the public's health, safety, and so forth, but to better regulate and govern the introduction of food trucks into our town. Because worst case is, there is no governance, and it portrays now kind of a possibly dangerous situation, private complaints, the truck's been on my curb for 4 days, et cetera, and so forth.
It's not difficult to look up some bad situation that other situations that other municipalities have been in this exact situation. That's really and I want to reiterate, like I said before, we are for food trucks. We are not trying to make it hard on food trucks to do anything. We just want to think ahead. Of what could happen. There is no cost, extra cost to any of the food trucks for any of this permitting process for the town. We're not charging. That's on the, we are doing that.
Fees are not an issue.
No extra fees. We're not trying to make money.
Okay.
I've heard that said. There's no fees. It is.
Talking about this.
Yeah, and I'm getting there. That's, you said it better than I could, I think, Commissioner Walls. And so I got 2 yeses to my question. My third yes is, to kind of reiterate, I think, your opening statement that this is a work in progress, and this commission is likely to see another version of this as you think through input from the public, input from this commission, and the questions we asked. The radius distances, that's on the table.
Correct.
I think some of the commissioners said, if you could kind of simplify the definitions. I know you're stratifying against the days they're present, the events they attend or not, and I get it. It's hard to stratify this permitting process. Private, public, invited by a business, not invited by a business, but near the business. Food trucks that want to set up seating and tables outside. That want to put a generator next to it and put up some kind of, festival lighting. I've seen it all. I mean, we've seen it all, right? And, so any of those circumstances could encroach upon the next vendor, the next truck. I mean, I welcome, Louis, you being here, and I'll wind down with this. Would we want to consider a roundtable of existing good bona fide food truck operators to kind of, get into a discussion either through the EDC? I'm offering the EDC as a possible venue, or just directly into the staff discussion. I mean.
So I believe, and Anthony might want to correct me or confirm, but this has been talked about in EDC meetings. And I think some of the comments you may be revising or you're using to revise the draft have directly come from those meetings, correct?
Yeah, they've come from a few different meetings we've had.
Yeah.
We have met with some business owners as well in the early stages of this to get some feedback. But that being said, I would be more than happy if that's a recommendation to meet again specifically with food truck vendors.
Yeah, no, it's, again, I acknowledge this is a tough thing. This is a tough topic, and and I understand you have done some engagement, and I do understand you're in the process of refining it to make it better. And so before I conclude with that, Commissioner Butts, I think you had a comment.
I think there are a couple of perspectives that we need to be aware of. And maybe it involves reaching out to other communities and to see who has done this, who has some experience. What insight have they gained? What recommendations could they make to us? Okay? And the same is true of other communities. Okay? If there's experience out there, if there's insight as a result, I would like for us to make use of it.
Understood.
Fair. And so in the interest of time, and I echo Commissioner Wallace's, I think we're still working on this. And again, we have 90 days. I would invite, I'll give you a chance here. I would invite that we include this on the agenda for March 30th, John.
Yep.
And that in the interim, Jared, if there is a next version, put that next version. And I would encourage the commissioners to keep this version so that we have kind of an archive history of how we went through and did edits and did, take.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could it be redlined? Because there was an initial version, now there's another version, no red line.
Yeah, we can start the red line process for that. That's fine.
Okay, okay. And so I offer that we kind of continue this. We're not going to reach a recommendation on this tonight. I think there's more to explore. We have 8 more pages. We got through a whole 2. Come on, let's look to the upside. We did get through 2. I think it's fair we had a good dialogue here, and we had good input from the public at the beginning. So if I may offer to the commissioners, let's take this on into March. Continue your looking over this. Anticipate another version coming that would be redlined for ease of us understanding what's the edit. And then, John, that'll be in the read ahead, and we'll take it up again. Is that fair, Commissioner Wallace?
I put a lot of time into going through this ordinance to discuss tonight, and I have 2 pages of comments, so I'll leave those with the town staff.
Okay. And you're welcome to give them to John, and John can send them out to all of us?
Sure.
Okay, great. Does anyone else have markups?
I don't have 2 pages of comments.
Okay, okay.
So I think I think Commissioner Wallace should get them in the hands of his town staff.
And I'm going to say this, I think everybody else kind of agrees to it. I would also value Commissioner Bynek's take on this. And I'm hopeful that she'll be able to join us in March, so we have a full day as here. Is that fair? Okay, so let's continue this. We know we have a time limit, but let's continue to improve it with our suggestions. I'm going to close this agenda item and now move to the introduction and discussion of Draft Ordinance 2026-2. This is our last agenda item. It's entitled Process and Standards for a Reclassification of Property Within the Town. And again, in any draft ordinance or amendment to our code, the Planning Commission's task is to analyze that draft ordinance and then to provide a recommendation ultimately to the town council. Again, we have 90 days in order to take this up and begin our journey. And so, as I did before with the food truck, I believe we have a sponsor here for that draft ordinance, and I believe it's Councilmember DeMotor. And so, commissioners, let me begin as I did with Jared and ask if the sponsor, Councilmember DeMotor, would like to give us an overview of the proposed amendment.
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. Well, good evening.
Tonight, I asked sincerely for your positive consideration and recommendation on ordinance 2026-2. This is an ordinance that's very important to my constituents, and I ask for you to support it on behalf of our citizens. Please support our citizens. The need for this ordinance is driven by heartfelt citizen concerns and lessons learned from the development of the 2023 Comprehensive Master Plan and its attempts to rezone, among others, a set of 20 properties on South Main Street from all residential to all commercial. Recall from public hearings and joint workshops between the council and this commission, residents cited concerns with process transparency, impacts to their quality of life, and the fact that they never requested that their property be rezoned. Some residents shared that they felt misled concerning statements from town officials that there existed a record of strong resident support for these 20 proposed rezonings to commercial use, when in their view, there was not. In response to a Maryland Public Information Act request that I filed to the town in fall of last year, the town in their response stated, and these are the town's exact words, the town stated they have no formal policy or tracking log in place for rezoning requests, and that there was no written town policy or internal process in place for rezoning requests during the 2023 Comprehensive Master Plan update. Now think about that for a moment. Think about what that means to our town process. There was a concerning lack of clarity and formal record, and the town provided incomplete information on rezoning requests, and for only 3 of the 20 South Main Street properties requested through the PIA. So this lack of a formal town policy, process, and record keeping for rezoning requests and determinations worsens this need and demands action. The ordinance I am sponsoring addresses these concerns and deficiencies. It also fosters excellence in government and continuous improvement. The process, standards, and criteria put forth in this ordinance will strengthen the public's confidence in and ensure improved governance of future land use decisions that may impact on the town we all call home. I welcome the opportunity to answer any questions you may have, and I also ask that I have an informal memo here with my opening statement and supporting information, and I'd like this to be included as part of the formal record for tonight's meeting. So thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you to hopefully get a positive recommendation.
Gotcha, thank you. And so the letter of record, if you can provide, can you provide that to us, or you got copies now? Okay, fantastic.
I mean, the letter of record, what'll be going in the record would be the minutes of the meeting.
No, you cited a specific document you wanted to have included in the record.
Yes, and I'm passing that around. It contains
right.
some of my remarks that I've just made. It contains a little more detail.
Gotcha.
It actually contains my original PIA request, so you can see the scope of what I was looking for in my request to the town.
I began last time when we talked about mobile feed units, so I will do cleanup batter, and so now I turn to the town staff for any comments on the proposed ordinance.
I have no comments at this point in time.
Okay, Jerry? None? I turn to the commissioners. Do you have any questions about the draft text or the summary provided by the sponsor?
I have a couple questions.
I
Sorry.
do.
Whenever you're done, Mark.
Well, firstly, I do want to clarify that there was a lot of misinformation regarding these rezones, and there were things that were stated that were completely untrue. And there was a lot of the citizens who had made statements that we don't know where they got this information from. When we first went through this process, it was back in 2021, and there were property ownership changes. And I want to remind you that in Frederick County, one of the disclaimers you sign is a notice about zones. So it's up to those citizens to call and find out what's going to happen to that property, or if anything is in discussion whatsoever. And so when citizens buy, and that is technically Frederick County, and that's like one of 5 or 6 disclosures that they have to sign, they're supposed to call to find out if there are any changes to the zone or proposed changes to the zone. And I don't know why those citizens either did not, or somebody told them something and they just accepted it. But officially, when you sign your mortgage closing documents, you do have to check that box. And I highly doubt that anybody on the town staff would have misinformed them or said, oh, by the way, we're not doing a master plan, or, oh, I have complete faith that the town staff anywhere, like even in the office, would have said, we're going through the master plan, or talk to so-and-so regarding this. So there was a lot of misinformation, and I can understand citizens' anger and confusion.
Commissioner Wallace?
I really appreciate this ordinance, and I think it's been a long time coming. A couple of questions in section B. One is on number 5, the availability of adequate public facilities. I feel like every time we talk about doing this, but then we have a challenge actually getting the information, and then there's like, oh, is this the right time to talk about it? And right, so that would be one of my questions, is how would we actually go about getting that information? Another is whether this, any of these need to be weighted. Like, does one matter more than another? Are they all equal criteria? I think that was it on that one.
Would you like responses, or I'm happy to listen? I'm here to listen, so.
Sure, sure. Let me suggest we just go around and,
Sure.
and then toward the end, if you want to respond.
Very good,
after we
thank
do.
you.
Yeah, anyone else have some feedback? Commissioner O'Malley?
Yeah, I mean, just like I addressed Mr. Schumacher earlier, usually I like to ask the intent of something that comes before us, because would what you're asking for be solved in just a paper trail, like a document for every rezoning that comes forward that we kept track of? Or are you saying that the master plan process that we followed was flawed and there was misinformation spread, and now there's all this code that you're trying to come up with to do a lot more work and add a lot more stuff that may be kind of redundant or we already covered? So I'm just kind of confused about that, if you could explain.
Yeah, and I was just going to suggest, is it a worksheet situation? Like, we've had worksheets before. And like we had one tonight, I would call it a worksheet. Maybe I'm old fashioned with, we were ayes and yays, and things were very, very clear along those lines.
Okay. Any other commissioner want to have some input from your review? Commissioner Vita?
I guess I'm falling in line with the 2 commissioners that by my side here, is that, don't we have a sign we put out that's yellow and it says town open, meeting, and we also did mailers to those residents as well. A lot of, I would say half of those residents showed up at our meetings, because I can name them. The one fellow on the corner that had to sell his property to the town for the big roundabout thing, he was here. He said he had no problem with it. The farmer that has his land squished all together, he was asking for that so he can finally sell that property someday that he's paying taxes on. He can use it for 1 cow and a broken barn that's fallen down.
Yeah, and then it
So,
wasn't-
I mean, what kind of hoops do you want him to go through?
And then the
for that?
people who came afterwards, as I understand it, properties had changed over.
Yeah, the
So
properties
when
had
they-
changed over. There was 2 residents that had an issue with it because they had just moved in and they didn't want to do that.
They didn't know.
And they didn't know the process.
Even though
They were informed, but they didn't understand it.
Can I ask
so-
a question? Can I ask a question? Because it seems like there's a lot of focus on the rezoning that happened in the master plan. But if you look back in time, there's been a lot of issues with rezonings that have happened long after the master plan was approved. And so I think that this is, like, I'm seeing this as necessary, especially in those instances, because we've had things come up that have been very questionable about, it's kind of like it's the legal definition of, rezoning, because there was an error in the master plan, or, there's a change in the neighborhood or whatever, but there's not a lot of other factors taken into consideration.
Well, the
And
state,
so
that's the state's change in mistake. We have the state guidelines.
Right, and I do think that this provides some additional rigor to the decision.
Gotcha.
Or more red tape.
That's the rigor she's talking about.
It's a big
She wants more
deal. A
time.
rezoning is a big deal.
But I'm just wondering if it could be more of like here's the check, like we've had our checklist before and we apply them. And I don't know if it's an ordinance question or if it's more like moving forward, you have this piece of paper stapled to this application kind of situation. And I don't see anything. I saw something, and then maybe you can help me, Mr. Demoter. But I mean, things like environmental considerations, that's usually like a site plan thing. Public health, safety, welfare, that's a site plan thing. Changing conditions, significant change in the area, that's a state code thing that we applied. I mean, I guess are you asking for more paperwork?
Well,
Martina, if those are site plan things, then why did we talk about it for the annexation? We took all of those things into consideration for an annexation. Why wouldn't we do the same for a rezoning?
Yeah, Commissioner.
I agree with you, Ms. Wallace. I do. And I thought we had that consideration when we were discussing South Main Street, that it was a thorough discussion.
Yeah.
You were part of that
Honestly, Brian,
body at the time.
honestly, when I saw this, I was not even thinking about the South Main Street. It never even occurred to me until you guys started talking about it tonight. I was not.
I didn't talk
I
about it.
wasn't, no, but I mean,
Voted
I
on it.
wasn't reading this through that lens.
Okay.
Let me turn to Commissioner Butts. Any comments or thoughts? Or are you still mulling over the draft?
I'm still mulling it over.
Okay. Then my turn. I want to offer a succinct common ground for everybody in this room. And I want to offer that this proposed ordinance and code puts in place the requirement for documentation. Fundamentally, the request from the homeowner, the desired rezoning category, the record of that homeowner request. I like to keep things simple. Is it fair that it wouldn't hurt if there's a database, a record, the term worksheet was used, but fundamentally, there's a large thrust of the proposed ordinance which says we need better record keeping. Is that an accurate statement?
I'll answer when you're all
Oh,
done.
okay,
I'll give
okay. So let me just kind of suppose that, and if I'm near accurate on that, I would like to take that thought and now swing to the staff and say to Jared or to John, I kind of get a feel that the better record keeping or better documentation is being added to the staff task here in this proposed. I think that's fair because it talks about the staff will do this. The Planning Commission also has levied some additional work in the draft. But to the staff doing this, I'd like to keep things simple and in the sense of asking the question, can we attain the better recordation? Can we attain the better documentation of these kinds of requests through simply a staff work policy, through a staff? So as you onboard every new staff member, I believe there is a document they must read as they come on board to understand staff policies. I'm not going to be so bold as to say the town administrator sets those. He perhaps sets those in conjunction with the mayor. I'm not sure. But that set of policies on how we will do business at the staff and town hall, it exists, doesn't it?
That's correct. I mean, we do have a policy and procedure manual, which is approved by the mayor. And we do have that internally. I would say, paperwork-wise, specific to what you're talking about right now, yes, I do believe that's a policy change we would make internally. I'm all for us improving our record keeping and improving our, how we correspond with the public and how we keep those records, I'm all for doing a better job at that. And but that is a policy that we would implement internally.
So let me now really stretch. Would it be better addressed through a staff policy change or addition to handle business relative to rezoning requests via a staff policy internal to the staff versus going through the public hearing and code amendment and this process? And again, I'll pose this question to Councilmember DeMotor, but just from your perspective, you believe you can increase the recordation and the documentation and with this as input, right? With kind of the seed corn here of what's being proposed as kind of guiding what that policy statement, that policy guidance would be for staff handling rezoning requests. Is that a fair statement?
As I understand you to say it, as I understand you're defining what's going on here as far as the staff time in order to better keep records. Yes, I believe that's an internal policy and procedures.
And
update.
all I'm trying to look at is alternatives to reach the same goal.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Maybe it's better done through a amendment to the code as presented here. Maybe it also can be handled expeditiously through and faster through, a policy statement as to how we handle inside the town hall rezoning requests with property owners.
Yeah, I would say, this is a question for Tom, I would think, as far as,
Okay.
if there are any updates we need to make here at town as the legal process in which we go about doing these, our master plan process, then yes, that's an ordinance. But if it's not a legal issue, if it's just an issue internally that we need to, are requested to keep better records and things like that for this process, I believe that's more of a policies and procedures issue.
Okay. Well, let me risk now springboarding into a question put before the town attorney, if Tom is still hanging on, following me.
I am.
Tom, you heard my last point, and I'm exploring alternatives to a code amendment that still reaches the same desired goal of better documentation. Would a staff policy statement, again, approved and crafted through the staff and the mayor's approval, would that be an appropriate alternative? Or is this issue too broad to have it handled in that manner?
Well, as I read the proposed ordinance, there are two aspects to it. One is process and record keeping, to be sure. But then I would say starting at proposed 11269B, 1 through 10, and C, that there is a substantive component to it. And that is to say what factors ought to be looked at in any determination by the town council. And remember, it's the town council ultimately decides what gets rezoned or doesn't get rezoned, and if so, to what. So maybe you could take care of some of that through some, like a worksheet or whatever, but I would say that this portion of the proposed change is substantive and not just a matter of record keeping. And obviously, we're not all going to be here forever. And if you want to provide the highest and best guide to how a future town council is going to make decisions, obviously a code provision is, I would say, more permanent because it's law.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And the voice on my shoulder was already giving me that same counter argument that policies are, more perishable than hard code. So,
right.
Yeah. Let me just clarify. So I think I heard you say that the substantive good advice in this proposed ordinance starts at 11269 Bravo to the end. Did I capture that right?
As I read the proposal, yes.
Okay.
The stuff above that, I would say is probably process and record keeping. Not that that's not important, because it is.
Right.
But I would just simply say that there's also a substantive component to this as well.
No, I got you. And would I be accurate in kind of riffing off your comment to say the process portion of this draft ordinance could be handled by a staff policy statement?
Yes, I mean, I suppose so. But once again, people have different views on this, and I don't really express one here, except to say that, with the force of code and the consistency of code, there isn't a lot of question about what ought to be
Right.
ought to be done by way of process and record keeping.
Right.
And it also can't change without some action by the town council if it's in the code, and the mayor, because the mayor, of course, has rights of veto or approval of ordinances. So,
Gotcha. Yeah.
Anyway,
No,
those are my thoughts about that.
And again, this is the very beginning of our exploration of this draft ordinance, and all I'm trying to see is what are the sets of solutions to it. I understand the thrust. I believe I understand the thrust. I understand the background and the why to this thrust. And so I'm kind of moving into, could it be the document we have before us? Could it be a policy statement within the staff to get to that goal? Or could it be a hybrid? And so could it be the process part of this proposed text be handled by policy and the staff on how we do business in town hall? But that process is guided by the, as you said, the substantive parts of 11269 Bravo. Yeah. And so that was me just kind of reiterating what I gathered from this conversation. Commissioner Hadley, you had a question?
I have a question for Tom. I don't know, and this may be something we talk about next time, is any part of this, is this still consistent with state code? Like, I don't want to do anything that would bump up against what's been established, Maryland law and the land use article.
So I'm not sure I caught all that question because I get a little bit of an echo, but I think I heard it enough to say, so the land use article contemplates two means by which to reclassify a zoning, the zoning of a piece of property. One is legislatively, and that is to say through a comprehensive rezoning arising from your master plan process that the town council ultimately enacts. So then secondly, there is a process between master plans, in other words, a process of rezoning not necessarily contemplated by the master plan, wherein there has to be a showing of change, substantial change of the character of the neighborhood or mistake. But even in the circumstance of the change in the character of the neighborhood, certainly and probably relative to a change due to a mistake, the case law says is that there's a two-part process to that. Part one is, well, has it been established that there was a substantial change in the character of the neighborhood and or a mistake? But even determining that, there is a second or back part of the analysis that the town council is instructed to undergo. And that is, okay, fine, you find a change in the character of the neighborhood. But that doesn't necessarily mandate that a town council proceed to rezone the property. There is a back half or legislative review, much like you do in the master plan process. And so as I read subsection D, subsection B, proposed 112-69, it is to guide the circumstance where you either determine to rezone a property or not to rezone a property, you consider it, in other words, in the master plan process or as a result of a change mistake. So even in the case of a change mistake, as I read the proposal here, it is to guide the analysis, the back half of that analysis as a town council or legislative body is instructed to do under the case law. Hopefully so ultimately you're asking, I think, is this all consistent with and not contradictory to the Maryland land use article? And in my opinion, it is not, it is consistent with and not inconsistent with the land use article.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just before you wrap up, I'd like just a minute.
Sure.
If you're okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I have some specific areas, and I'm watching the time, so let me just jump into,
Excuse me, Chairman, will I have a few minutes to respond to some of the comments?
right, I was going to give
Okay.
you some of my.
Very good.
I was kind of generalizing on alternative solutions to get to the same goal, and so now I have some specific areas, if,
I just thought of one quick thing. I'm so sorry.
okay.
Blight. Did you point out anything in here that says blight? Because that was another question I had. I mean, substantious, especially if there's a blighted property and to fix it up, somebody needs to rezone it. If that would be in consideration, because I think that might prohibit somebody from trying to invest in our town if they can't do that.
Okay, and he may address that?
Yeah.
Here toward the end, okay.
I'm done, I promise.
Gotcha. 112-66, Councilmember Demoter. We start off with the existing text. A, it talks about a public hearing shall be held, and so on and so forth. And then we drop down to new text, which is Charlie, public notification and citizen input. I'm just making sure everybody's following me. I'm on page 2, okay? And so public notification and citizen input, is not your proposed wording already an understood part of the rigor of setting up a public hearing? I mean, don't we already know we do those things? You know, when we comply with the existing text for a public hearing, you're adding text that says, this is how you'll give notification. When I understand we already have a process for giving notification of a public hearing, so,
Not during the master plan process.
I'm sorry?
Not for specific properties during the master plan process.
But a public hearing notification is a public hearing notification. So,
But on South Main Street, we didn't put signs on all their properties during the master plan process.
Are you talking about the first time we went through? Yeah, they were notified. There was, like, this was before, when did you come on to the council? It's only been, has it been a year yet?
9 months.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Sean was president in a lot of those meetings prior to becoming a town council member. But for notifications, we did send out mailers. We put signs on the east side of South Main, and the adjoining property owners across the street did get letters of that meeting that we were talking about for the east side. When we went through the whole master plan process, we looked at it holistically, looking at the future annexation. And then that's when the planning commission made that determination to, excuse me, I'm sorry. Anyway, that's when we made the determination, the planning commission made that recommendation to the town council that then adopted that master plan.
yeah.
oh, sorry.
Well, all I'm doing is, because if we replay the months of the rezonings, we could be here probably till breakfast. All I'm saying is, just take a look at whether or not that added Charlie paragraph is already addressed as the way we do notifications for the public. Now, to be even-handed, if there are problems with that notification process, if there's some lack of ABC, and this is kind of codifying, to use the words of Tom McCarron, then I understand that. But to me, right now, I'm kind of questioning whether that paragraph is necessary, given the fact that I kind of believe the staff knows how to issue public notifications prior, just like tonight, the notifications that went out for the 2 public hearings. And then I see D, which talks about a comprehensive staff report. And then if I fast forward really quickly here, 11269, it talks about a findings of fact generated by the town council. And so kind of looking at those two, you're saying on page 2, paragraph D, a comprehensive staff report, which levies a task on the town staff. But then you also refer to, I also refer to 11269A, where it says the town council shall make findings of fact in each case. So it just sounds like the current code says the town council will make findings of fact, but you're also levying kind of a similar task on the town staff to produce a comprehensive staff report. So just to me, it looks like there's 2 things, 2 animals, they look kind of the same, being proposed. Let me get off of that and get into the next page, page 3, Bowlegs 4, review and analysis results, detailed findings based on consideration of the required evaluation criteria. So I'm asking, well, I think I'm correct in that the quote, required evaluation criteria, you're referring to what exists in 11269, paragraph A, which says, make findings of fact in each case, including but not limited to the following. And so I won't read what it says after following, but after the following, I'm kind of understanding that's your so-called required evaluation criteria. And I'm just asking, I hope I'm right, because required evaluation, I kind of said, well, where is that required? And then as I read further into 11269, I saw that this findings of fact were based on population change, availability of public facilities. So I would say if that's the evaluation criteria, maybe we ought to instead also have an edit that says findings of fact based on evaluation criteria. You know what I'm saying? Just make it easy to connect the dots on that. And again, I'm presupposing that you agree that that is in fact the list of evaluation criteria. Let me move quickly here. Record of public comment, I'm on Bowleg 6, page 3. Again, it's kind of like, don't we already keep a record of public comment? You don't believe so? Okay.
There's the videos.
Yeah, videos.
There's video
emails.
libraries of public comment.
Okay.
So you have to
There's
go-
written
so you're gonna make
libraries of
someone
public
Watch
comment.
hours of video to find the time that someone specifically said a certain thing about that certain parcel.
Well, that's called evidence.
What do you
People
want
have
it
to
to
go
be?
through
I think
evidence.
it should be documented.
Okay.
It is
They are.
documented. There's,
They're documented in the notes
So
that we have
much.
before the meeting, when we have to, the minutes from the meetings prior have those comments.
have
in
all
there.
my
Actually,
emails.
they're actually
Let
not.
me-
They're summarized. It'll say like, these many people were
Let
opposed.
me-
whatever.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it out loud. This is an overreach.
Let me
Town council.
let me ask the commissioners to kind of lower the temperature.
saying.
And to use an old term, I feel like I rolled a grenade in the room. So let me just finish. No, I respect your views, but let me just get some points out here, and we can visit them. We got 90 days, guys. We can scrub this. So record of public comment. Bowleg 7, final recommendation. There's an interesting phrase there, a professional recommendation for approval. So I kind of said, who's that professional? Is that a staff member? Is that the elite planning commission? I didn't get a smile on that.
again,
Is,
that's
is-
subjective.
Is it the town administrator?
It's-
Could be the-
yeah,
Could
it's-
be the director of planning.
So again, I
Could
don't.
be the mayor.
I don't want to dwell
Could
too,
be
I don't want to
Steve
dwell
Keller.
too long on that,
Who
but
could
it's
it
just
be?
a question. Who would be that particular person or body to give that recommendation? And then, I'm trying to be timely here, folks. And then I go to the page 4, the Bravo paragraph and added text. Bowlegs 1, consistency with the comprehensive plan. As I understand it, rezonings have to be captured in the master plan before they can even, make the first step toward being rezoned. So maybe redundant statements of that is okay, but I just want to say, I believe we all know that a rezoning has to be in compliance with what's said in the comprehensive plan. And the full range of uses permitted in the proposed new zoning, well, each of our zoning categories has a very long paragraph of permitted uses. So I think, again, that's just kind of my sense of it's already in the code. But again, I'm being even-handed. Perhaps, emphasis on that is not a bad thing. I go down to 5, and I'm going to echo some comments made earlier about the adequate public facilities and services. This is a very sensitive thing with me because 25-5, the adequate public facilities ordinance within our code, is very specific about this body certifying the adequacy of 7 public facilities that the town must provide at the concept plan stage. At the concept plan stage. And so I know in the past, even with the annexation, we touched upon whether or not those services could be provided to the applicant for that. And so if we start talking about the availability of APF and services, I'm kind of concerned that we're going to kind of have to need to kind of make an adjustment in 25-5 that says, and for rezoning requests, we'll do, I don't know, put a label on it, a preliminary APFO. When we went through the pre-concept approval, pre-concept plan of a major development in the town over the past years, I believe we went through the joint workshop with the council, and we got to a point where we came up with something like a preliminary APFO. It wasn't the full-blown 25-5. Do y'all recall that? Because we were interested, before we get past this first step, do we even have a sense of whether or not we have adequate water or adequate sewer or adequate law enforcement, or adequate schools, et
That's
cetera?
our worksheet.
Well, and so I just mentioned it, once again, we're looking at APFO being invoked or some flavor of it outside of what's already in the code for only it being done at the concept plan stage. And I'm just being righteous here, okay? And then the last comments I'll made, it's already been echoed, environmental consideration, assessment of environmental impacts. Who does that? Is that a licensed environmental impact assessor or some person that is qualified to make an environmental impact, or can it be a member of the staff? Yeah.
We did have an environmental impact study done on the small development up the street here. It used to be the Chevrolet dealer. Remember, we wanted to have the soil tested for public safety.
True, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's already something we've already done.
Well, and in that case, I think what we invoked was the need for the owner or the applicant to execute a phase 1
Environment, ESA. So.
ESA,
And we're doing that on the
Yeah.
parcel A at the lot 15 for that piece that they're donating to the town. They're providing
So,
a
yeah,
phase
thank you.
1 ESA.
So in the context of this proposed wording, that's a good point. Maybe that's done through asking the homeowner to do an ESA phase 1?
That seems excessive, though,
Well,
especially if they're just going for, if it's a mom and pop wanting to open
Right.
a business, that happens to be a little
I
bit
got
just
you.
outside.
I got you. Yeah,
That's-
I'm just saying, when we impose something like this, we have to think about, well, how is it done?
Yeah.
At whose cost to achieve that? And then last, the economic effects. In the same in the same kind of discussion as environmental impact, who is the trusted person that's going to give an unbiased economic effects of this guy going from residential to neighborhood professional as an example? Right? Who's going to be that person that gives the yay or nay on economic effects?
Yeah,
And
because a
so,
lot of times those are just mom and pop people or somebody opening a smaller business that's not hugely impactful.
gotcha. And so, I promised I'd be cleanup batter, and I promised Councilmember Kelly to have the last word before I turn to,
Councilman Demoter also wants to have a word.
well, absolutely.
Well, I do have one last thought. I
well-
can see, now that now that we just said that from resident, I can see for things like commercial going to industrial. Those would certainly, we would want to see the impacts of those. And I think that that would be something that people would have more resources to apply to something like that. I just don't you want, like, look at all the businesses that opened up in houses on East Ridgeville. They're just like, they're smaller businesses and they couldn't have done that had they not been rezoned.
Right, and thanks for that opportunity for me to kind of further explain. I have some interest in the topic of economic effects.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure how we get there.
Yeah.
And is that imposed on the property owner? Is that imposed on the town staff? Is that imposed on an outside professional? And then you ask the question, well, who's pay for that person to come in and give that economic effects report? So I hear you. So again,
All right, I'm done.
Councilmember Kelly, I promise.
So I think we keep losing sight of something, and Councilman Demote, I'm sure will, if he wants to speak to this, to confirm this or deny this, but for me personally, this ordinance generally resonates because of the challenge of the master plan process, okay? So Mr. McCarron, I think for the first time in this discussion, mentioned the word master plans, and this, to me, this is where this has the most use, I think, okay? And I have two examples, two very recent examples that resonate with me that I want to remind you all of, okay? So first of all, how long did the whole master process from, I mean, there were previous commissioners and was it about 2 years?
It was just shy of 2 years.
Right.
It was, yeah.
So there's an inherent challenge there, right? How long that takes, to what degree do specific property owners get involved? I don't know. Again, talking to some of those, it was a surprise to some of them, and maybe they were recent owners. I don't know, but that's another facet to this, right? Is this the whole record-keeping part of it? Anyway, the two recent examples, just to be mindful of, is, there's the South Main thing where there were properties that were changed over. There were comments. Again, I was at least one of those workshops. I think I was at the last workshop. We'll talk about that in a second. And it was just, everybody knows about it and they want it, and, so that got into the master plan. The next example I want to bring up is at the 11th hour, at that last workshop, the 11th hour, the Warfield annexation petitioner showed up with their attorney and asked to have it in the master plan.
Right.
And you all voted it into the master plan and then just voted against it. And I'll tell you that the council wants to put weight into that master plan, and they want to rely on the master plan. But we've had some recent examples now that we get it, and then there's facts come out, there's records that come out that don't align with what the citizens want, what some of the officials were told. So that's where this is coming from.
No, that's fair, and if I can quickly address what you brought up with regard to the Warfield. At the time that the Warfield and their attorneys came in to be annexed, we had no idea as to the proposed land use. And in consultation with the attorney, when we went through the annexation petition scrub and analysis to reach a recommendation, he okayed us getting into the land use that's being proposed under R1. Their petition says they want to go from R40,000 county to R1 town municipal code, and within the allowed uses of R1, it includes an outdoor sports complex or recreation facility are the exact words. At the time of the master plan crafting, we had no idea. it was understood that they were going to come in, as it states in the code, initial entry has to come in at R1, residential. And so we had no idea that there was
Actually, well, the petitioners were there that night.
I'm sorry?
The petitioners were there that night.
Well, if they were there, I don't recall them saying, we're going to make an 8-field sports complex out of that in the end. It was, we want to be annexed.
Yeah,
And
that's my recommendation. That's my recollection.
There's a letter dated, I believe, August of 2025, or maybe it was 24, actually.
24 could have
Yeah, I think it was 24 that stated the intent for that property.
Yeah, so I'm just, and this isn't pointing fingers, this is just, that's an illustration of the disconnect, and it's a challenge. It's not easy, okay, but it's an illustration of the disconnect here. And look, I'm not in danger of giving anybody the script here. The script's already written. When it comes before the council in 2 or 3 months, what's the first thing out of their mouth or the lawyer's mouth is going to be, it's in your master plan. So the council, I feel, I haven't polled out all of us, but I feel that we all want to hold the appropriate weight in that master plan document. And that's where this is born.
and you're referring specifically to the Warfield annexation?
And other explanations. I don't want to belabor all the other
Okay.
examples, but there's other examples that we talked about tonight. So
Yeah. And my best answer at this moment, Councilmember Kelly, would be to give you the answer I gave just a moment ago. When an annexation is desired to be included within the master plan, which is necessary for annexation, at that time, I recall there was no discussion about the exact land use of it becoming a 8-field, and I'll admit that I was ignorant if some other commissioner can recall that was discussed, but that's yeah, that's the difference on that, but I get your message.
That's all.
And so I appreciate it.
My point is, it's not the actual rezonings. Yes, they get a sign put in their yard, and there's the letters, and but it's the 2 years of master plan leading up to that.
Sure.
You know, that's the challenge.
With public notice of meetings.
Public notice and owners changing over in between, and so.
Yeah, so.
I just have a quick question with Warfield so we can clarify. It was elite baseball, but at the time, I don't recall us knowing exactly, when they showed us their presentation, I mean, it was an eye-opener. I mean, it is, I get it, it is in the master plan. It is zoned a certain way. And then you come in and there's a vast difference between, oh, it's an elite baseball, they want to put a baseball field. And then it turned into something. And then you hear all this input from, everybody. And this was a very difficult decision to make. And to be fair, you guys can vote it in. We just gave you recommendations. So
Absolutely. I legitimately look, I want to view that. I hold your opinions and all the whole process you've gone through with extreme weight, a lot of weight. So, but we also want to hold the master plan with the same amount of weight, so.
Sure. If I may, and we've got about 20 minutes.
Okay, very good.
If that's fair.
I will try and see how good my memory is and listening to all of the this and that's and the
I know
comments.
we've given you a panorama of stuff
All
here.
right, well, thank you for the feedback. Feedback is a gift, as we used to say in Boy Scouts to our scouts. So let me try and go through these, tick these off. First of all, I want to say that the completion of the town's 2023 comprehensive master plan, it was an impressive accomplishment, okay? I'm all about excellence in government and lessons learned and continuous improvement. And this is about improving our process, improving credibility with the public, and strengthening our evaluation process, and yes, our record keeping and our decision making. So let me first say that. Secondly, this ordinance applies to both. It applies to zoning requests and determinations outside of the master plan process in the case of a mistake or a change in the neighborhood, and it applies to zonings within the master plan process. So I want to clarify that. Let me start now. Let me just go say on the record, a simple town internal policy is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. This needs to be codified. I have here a well-researched ordinance that essentially is providing 2 pages 2 pages of new material that is well-crafted, vetted through the town attorney, and not based on asks that are way out in far left field. These are the kinds of questions that are typically asked through other municipalities and other states. And even if you go and look at some law schools of different universities and such, you'll find almost verbatim these same criteria. So I can provide evidence of that. Now, let me start to go through some of the comments. Oh, and lastly, and I'm just stating a fact. About 9 months ago, I asked the town for the formal record of rezoning determinations that came out of the master plan process. And recall at our joint workshop, I asked for that information. I got crickets from the town government. And so even as part of my ask, I said, do you have an internal policy? And if you don't, you might want to consider developing one, and here are some elements you could put in it. That was 9 months ago. We still don't have an internal policy. So that tells me it's not happening and needs to be codified, okay? So let me go through the ordinance. On page 2, and I guess it's under procedures, item C, and Commission Chair Gent. I mean, yes, on C, public notification and citizen input. Do we already ask for public notification and citizen input in other places? Yes. But regarding rezonings, and if you agree that we do that, then to your point, what's the harm of saying it again in a code? One of the main drivers of C is the second part of this that says, in addition to the record for hearings, a thorough record shall be made of the notification process and input from the citizens with particular attention to their concerns and perspectives for all these factors, because the record shows there has not been a good documentation of citizens' views and concerns and how they were factored into the decision-making to rezone a property. Okay, let me try and keep going here. Regarding the, let's call them evaluation criteria on page 4 of 5 under B, let me first say that many of these elements did you not just touch upon as part of the consideration of an annexation agreement? I mean, I heard you at a Cliff Notes level, at a cursory level, question environmental considerations. You were worried about PFAS and artificial turf. You talked about economic effects and impacts, whether it's going to bring economic vitality to the town or not, public health and safety issues, consistency with the master plan, all those things. So you ask those kinds of questions at a kind of generic level for the annexation. And I want to remind you, even for rezonings, these are the kinds of questions that come up all the time. What's the impact of traffic going to be from that new commercial facility? What's the impact, the harmony of the surrounding areas? What's the impact to the water usage? All these things are part of the continuum of questions that you consider when you are considering rezoning of properties or annexations. Let me speak specifically to number 5. I guess this was the adequacy of public facilities. And let me just say, I'm looking for your help and suggestions. I'm open to fine-tuning of these elements and such. Adequacy of public facilities. This is not intended to be the certified APFO kind of an analysis that's done with a site plan and such. So it's not intended to be that. But at a screening level, you've certainly asked those kinds of questions for annexation and for rezonings. I've heard you ask some of those questions. Indeed, for the Beck property, at my request, we did a screening assessment, the town did, of adequate public facilities. So it can be done before the formal APFO certification process. So again, I don't see any harm or foul in that. Let's see what else we have here. Now, talking about, well, we're just looking for better record keeping and documentation. Yes, but more than that, we're looking for the set of evaluation criteria that are consistently asked and evaluated and documented for the record, and how those factored into the recommendation to rezone a property. Granted, at times, I hear some of these factors discussed, but they're not always all discussed and not consistently. When I asked for my PIA request, what I got back from the town, and this is what I got back from the town, there were 2 or 3 staff recommendations that just said, we recommend this property be rezoning to blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, what's the basis of that recommendation? Where's your evaluation? And really, to me, that's what our planning staff should be doing in the town government. You are all volunteers. They are the experts. They're supposed to provide to you at least a starting roadmap for you to consider all these things. So we need to improve the rigor of what happens within our town government to make your job easier, and that's a springboard then for you to consider, continue on with your consideration of the merits of rezoning. To me, the ordinance does really 3 things. One, it strengthens the notification process, but more importantly, hardwiring in the feedback from the citizens on how they feel about those rezonings and the impact to their quality of life. Then, yes, it does indeed codify the record-keeping requirements. And then thirdly, it sets these criteria that need to be considered in rezoning determinations. That's what this ordinance does. And a last comment, and I mean this very respectfully, but I spent my career in state government and federal government. I've always been a public servant. And I'm a little bit offended by some of the commission members' comments about, well, the citizens, it was their job. They could have come and commented. We notified them. It's their job to look at the record when they buy a house. Well, you know what? We're here to serve the citizens and to make their lives better, to protect their safety and health. And it's not their job to have to go and ferret out through 35 planning commission videos what the record is. That's absurd. There should be a formal record that the town maintains on rezoning processes. So there, you've got me riled up a little bit as well. So in summary, I think the ordinance is well-researched. It's 2 pages of new text for a code. I think it's well-needed, and I ask for your support because the citizens will benefit from this. I never again want to see a public hearing where young families, young property owners get up almost in tears and say, I didn't ask for my property to be rezoned. There's no strong record of support to rezone my entire street to commercial. What are you doing? I never want to see that again. If there's one thing I do in my next 3 years is help address those concerns from those citizens. So, thank you.
Gotcha. And if I can just follow up on a specific question, when we talk about the evaluation criteria.
Yes.
As I mentioned before, I believe, and just, am I on base, am I accurate? When you talk about the evaluation criteria, you're referring to the list of things that are already shown in 11269 paragraph A, the findings of fact, including population change. So am I accurate to use the term evaluation criteria against that list of, about 6 items there in paragraph A? Is that the evaluation criteria?
Well, actually, I think I agree with the premise of what you're saying, but it's both. It's saying under A, everything at the top of page 4,
right?
those things need to be considered. Some of those are stated very broadly,
Right?
but in addition to those, these additional criteria in B need to also be part of that process.
So I.
And that's
I-
why there's specific wording in here about, let me find it. Under B, where the additional criteria are listed, it says, including but not limited to findings related to change or mistake, and to the extent not inconsistent therewith, all proposals shall be evaluating with, to these criteria below. So it's the criteria or factors stated in the paragraph above that's already in place.
Okay.
But we're layering on to that, some to make them more clear or more refined, and others might be additional, this set of criteria.
And so I'm getting a better understanding, and I would just leave you on this discussion of the draft ordinance from my perspective, two things to consider, would be clarity as to the proposed staff report and maybe some clarity in that paragraph for that requirement as to what it must have and what it aims to achieve. And then swinging over to the existing code in 11269A, which lists a council role to produce a, quote, findings of fact, including those evaluation criteria. Those are my words, but including those elements in that paragraph at the top of page 4. And I get that it's not just those elements at the top of page 4, but in paragraph B, further down page 4, there's environmental, there's economic effects, those there, and I think you're kind of placing those in the same category of, that's also evaluation criteria. And so all I'm saying is, maybe it would be improved if we kind of put it all together. The evaluation criteria is this.
Yeah, no, I see your point.
And
we can clarify.
in
that.
all of those elements that are already there in paragraph A, and the additional elements that you argue are relevant to an evaluation. And then secondly, just clarity, because I kind of see two reports coming out of this, a council-imposed findings of fact, and then also a staff report. And it sounds like they could be very well the same effort. And so I'm just trying to clarify, maybe there just needs to be this one set of criteria to evaluate the zoning request. Who puts it together? What is that called? We have findings of fact jargon, we have staff report jargon. I'm just trying to improve clarity here.
I appreciate that. Actually, in thinking through this, and again, I'm looking for improvements, but the intent was that A and B are both part of the evaluation criteria, but we can.
I gotcha.
The other thing I think maybe we can improve, if you look on page 2, under D, it says comprehensive staff report.
Right.
And then it lists, there's really two pieces of the puzzle there. There's a lot about just the basic mechanics. Who requested the zoning? When? Is there a record? Did they say why they want the rezoning? And, that kind of record keeping. But then there are also, everything from number 4 down to 11. So to your point, most of this are things that need to be done starting with town staff, but then by the planning commission and then the town council. So I don't know if this is the right answer, but maybe in place of saying comprehensive staff report, we take out staff report and we just say like a comprehensive report or comprehensive documentation. And then that includes all these things.
Yeah, and again.
So that's kind of to your, heading toward what your point is.
Right. And again, to your point on page 3, Boleg's 4, which is a paragraph underneath the comprehensive staff report, right? It says that the detailed findings will be based on consideration of the required evaluation criteria. And yet, the required evaluation criteria is a town council task for something called a findings of fact, and that's called out in 11269A. Do you kind of see my point?
Yeah, we were-
Like, you got two bodies looking at the same criteria,
I understand.
producing a report of some sort. And
I think we were trying to keep the language under findings for reclassification under A. We were trying to keep certain language that's already in place, like not change it. We only wanted to change language where we felt we needed to, but,
Gotcha.
but
Yeah.
message received, and I think we can make some improvements.
And I can kind of understand there is kind of a dual role. I'm just being even-handed here. Perhaps the staff part of a report is simply the who, what, when, where. In other words, what's the address? Who's the owner on record in the tax plat book? What is their current zoning? In other words, it's just simple stuff, but the criteria and the evaluation and the assessment of the criteria may not be in the staff. That's just the who, what, when, and where. Joe Timpeg came in, wants to rezone. Here's the recordation of that request. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, but let me,
But the important part is, what are the impacts of such a rezoning? And that goes to the evaluation criteria. I think we're in sync.
I agree, but just to that point, and I tried to make this point earlier, that is part of what you do as the planning commission, but is it not also the job of the internal town staff? I mean, if we can't look to the internal town staff if all we're asking them to do is keep a record of who asked for the rezoning and when, and we're not even asking them for some expertise on evaluating it and what their recommendation is to the planning commission and then to the town council, then I'm sorry, I'm looking for more out of my town staff.
And again, I'm not crossing swords with you. I'm just saying 11269A says it's the council's responsibility to apply criteria and to find, and to create this, quote, findings of fact. I'm just saying that's in there now. And from my perspective, at looking at this, we've got two bodies looking at the same criteria, Bowlegs 4, producing their own reports that are going to finally get to, is it wise to rezone or not, right? That's the end game, right? And so all I'm saying is maybe clean up, maybe even 11269A is kind of what I'm implying here. I'm not going to disagree with you that much of the lifting, the recordation, the documentation is best done by the staff, right? Because that's who they're going to walk in and start that dialogue, right? And so it's just the point I'm making for the third time is, right now it says there's a role for the town council.
Yeah.
And really, who does that? I mean, are you going to subdivide into a committee to do that kind of, I don't think so, right?
We would do what we do,
So-
just as the annexation comes before
So
us.
I guess to wrap it all up, I'm just suggesting and encouraging maybe some clarity with regard to who does the assessment as to whether it's good or bad to do the requested rezoning, what is produced from that and by whom, those sorts of simple things. That's all I'm saying, Councilmember DeMotor. And let me just say, to kind of take us around third and home here, is it fair to say that, or I'm asking the question, based on this interaction tonight, similar question that I posed with the food truck, would there likely be a revision to this for us to continue the exploration in March? In other words, taking in some of these comments, possibly an edit of this that we can then take up and look at in March and continuing our effort? Or any kind of sense of that? Do you see some revisions possibly occurring?
Well, I could do this a number of ways or concurrently. I mean, I can certainly go back, and we have our town attorneys on the phone, and he's heard this conversation. And I can go back and work with Tom on some of the clarity on some of these different reports or roles, et cetera. If you, as a commission, in the next 4 or 5 days, If you have some suggesting wording on how you would recast that, and not just comments, but our suggestion is, section A, paragraph whatever, rephrase that to be X, Y, Z. If you have a suggestion on this main comment that you've had, if you can provide that to me, and then at least I'll know I am capturing your exact suggestion as we perhaps finesse some of the language.
Gotcha. So I think, speaking to the commission here, I think what I just heard was an invitation for written edits that will go from this very rich and amenable dialogue into some hard change X to Y. And we would, that invitation, I would guide, let's give that to John. John, collect them. You may get 7 flavors, right?
Can I ask this is my ask. I'm not looking for comments. I'm looking for, if you have comments, capture those and how you would rephrase and reword a specific sentence or paragraph in the document. I'm not looking for a matrix of 85 comments. I'm looking for, based on the rich conversation we've had under section 112-69, I recommend writing paragraph A to the following. That's really what I'm looking for that's going to be helpful.
Okay.
Absent that, either way, I will go back, work with the town attorney, and we can deliver something
Okay.
For your continued consideration at the next planning commission meeting.
Could you clarify that last statement? It sounds like you're going to dismiss comments that aren't written a certain way.
I'm not dismissing comments. I'd rather get specific wording on how you think the document can be improved so that when I bring an updated document to the commission, it captures some of that recommended wording.
Gotcha. So let me just ask the commissioners to consider this invitation. It's an overture to get kind of like firm understandings from each of us and firm recommendations for improvement, change, et cetera. In the context that I just heard, keep them addressed to kind of higher level, not, change the to it. You don't want that kind of comment matrix. You want kind of broader, higher level kind of improvement recommendations. And I would give an example, like me saying possibly to you, Councilmember DeMotor, suggest clarification about the separate reports that are implied here, staff versus council. And I would reference the different areas where that's called out. And that would be kind of in the family of input that you would be looking for, I think. Clarify the evaluation criteria that's mentioned as a staff responsibility and also as a town council. Just, those are kind of the broad strokes, I think.
Yes, but even further, because you may have experienced this in your professional career as well, but, comments, feedback is always appreciated, but where you can capture your specific recommendation, like reword item 3 to say this.
Oh.
It's almost like you're redlining the section to incorporate the comment that you have. You're providing the recommended fix. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
I think that's
Well,
that's a fair.
Well, I'm kind of now back down to the tactical level. So let's do this. With your invitation for input, I'm suggesting to the commissioners that they should consider that, and if they have that, put that together on this draft ordinance, shoot it to John, let John collect them, and because we have, about a month until we get together again in March, and we get our read-ahead on March 23rd, certainly you would need to have that input from us early enough to where your revisions that we would get on March 23rd in our read-ahead would maybe encompass them, maybe entertain them, that sort of thing. So I'm just trying to work toward a timeline that if the commissioners wish to provide the input that you've desired or described, We would get that to John. What's reasonable, commissioners? A week?
You say by when, a week before? A week before our meeting?
No, a week from today.
No,
today?
a week from today.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Give you a week. That would, that would include a weekend if I know some of you have, steady jobs and so forth. So let's try to shoot for that to get you what you desire. John, are you agreeable to
Monday the 2nd.
that?
It'd be Monday the 2nd.
That would be Monday the 2nd, right. John, are you agreeable with us making you the catcher for all that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and then you would compile it and then just shoot it on to the council member demoter. And I would surmise you would probably want that also to reach Tom?
You can send it to me, and it'll
Okay.
definitely go to Tom, because
Okay.
I'm working with Tom on the ordinance.
Gotcha. Hey, let me close by saying thank you. Sometimes making the sausage is kind of interesting, right? I'm going to be.
About improving
Right?
our government for our
Gotcha.
citizens.
The last, so thank you again, Councilmember Demoter and Councilmember Kelly. I'm going to close this item, and then we're going to close with reports and other business. And council liaison report, Councilman Kelly, do you have a quick report for us?
Sure, some items of note from the last 3 town council meetings. I've tried to distill this down. So December, we ended up not passing the December version of the water and sewer rate increase. But the mayor, town staff, and the commission committed to working up a more comprehensive, more specific long-term plan for the water and sewer rates. We'll get to that in a minute. And that ordinance, at this time in December, we had expected to have it by fiscal year 2026 budget, and we are on track for that. So in the January meeting, Mayor Hushhour reported that all stormwater grates had now been inspected. 48 needed remediation measures, ranging from new signage to new grates to collapsed drains that needed to be fixed. Also, during that meeting, Resolution 2026-1 was passed, which approves acquisition, implementation, operation, and maintenance of a weather alert siren system. Lastly, at this last meeting in February, 2 items of note. After a favorable recommendation from the Water and Sewer Commission, Ordinance 2026-3, which is the latest water and sewer rate increase, was introduced. Also, Mr. McCarron reported that the town closed on the non-residential portion of Green Tree, which will be the future home of the Mount Airy Police Station. Purchase price was $975,000 with an appraisal of $1.3 million. The next meeting is this Monday, March 2nd. Any questions?
Any questions for the council members report? Thank you so much, Councilmember Kelly. We also now turn to the zoning administrator report and the annual totals, and I'll make the announcement for the next commission meeting. So for the administrator report, John, are there any highlights?
Nothing to add to that.
We got a copy in our folder.
Yep, there's the, for November, December, and January, and then the totals for last year.
Beautiful. If you have any questions, commissioners, I would invite you to shoot them straight to John if you want to follow up on those reports. I'll close this meeting by announcing the next Planning Commission meeting will be on March 30th and at 7:30 p.m. as stated in the agenda. And we will, begin that meeting with a public hearing on the water yield allocation categories. Barney, we'll certainly invite you to join us on that. Yeah, it's exciting topic. Yeah. And so any alibis from the town administrator or John as far as any last minute or last business? Nothing else? Okay, then it is 10:37. I adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.